We will start the Town of Rome Plan Commission public hearing and regular meeting. We'll call it to order for Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 at 4 o'clock p.m. Item number 2 is a roll call, starting on my right.
Am I supposed to be officially here or not? Weesinger, here, but not really.
Williams here.
I can't vote here.
Baker.
Jilgi?
Jamadi.
Also present are Town Administrator Jamie Gebert, Town's Planning and Zoning Administrator Emily Zeddies, and Town Attorney Nick Flanagan. Item number 3 is to certify the posting of the meeting. Emily?
The agenda for the May 9 Plan Commission meeting was posted at the following locations on April 25th. Rome Municipal Building at 3:54 p.m. Quick Trip at 4:08 p.m. Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:12 p.m. It was emailed to the Wisconsin Daily Tribune at 2:57 p.m. It was emailed to the town website at 9:07 a.m. on 4/28. And the legal notice was printed in the Wisconsin Daily Tribune on 4/25 and 5/2 and 4/9 for the comp plan.
Thank you. Item number 4 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Motion by Diana, second by Paul, to approve the agenda. Is there any other discussion?
It was long.
There is, correct, it's not town board for the item 10 and 11 should be.
11 and 12.
Oh, sorry, 11 and 12 should be discussion and possible action, not recommendation to town board.
Okay.
Eleven and 12?
With those changes being made, is there any other discussion? Then hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5 is the citizen comment portion of the agenda. Do you have any cards, Emily, for the first part?
I do not.
Okay. For those of you that have agendas in the audience, the second part is 5A. The commission will also take comment from the public on an agenda item as called by the chair, but not during the citizen comment portion. Please note that once the commission begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public on that issue. So the next section is no action contemplated except possible referral to a future agenda. Item number 6, information updates, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring forward? Hearing none, then we'll move on to item number 7, which is to open the public hearing. 7A, consideration of the proposed comprehensive plan map 9 amendment from rural residence to agriculture and zoning map amendment from R4 rural residence district to A2 secondary agricultural district relating to the property located at 780 Anawa Lane, owned by Yvonne and Michael Harris, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 5582, located in Section 13, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-751-10. Total area 40.201 acres. Emily.
Letters were sent to 7 property owners within 200 feet of this affected property. The comprehensive plan amendment was noticed 30 days in advance of the plan commission meeting. This request was made in accordance with the following agenda item for the mobile tower siting. While the mobile tower siting can go in any district, the proposed security fencing would not be permitted in a residential district. A2 has a minimum lot size of 10 acres, which is greater than the current minimum lot size of 5 acres. And based on concern that was brought to me, so agricultural zoning district would increase the maximum number of domestic animals on the property, but currently they would be allowed for 2 animal units, which allows for like 2 steer, 4 heifers, llamas, 5 horses, 8 calves, up to 40 ducks, turkeys, over 50 chickens, rabbits, and so there's animals allowed. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Letters, were the letters sent out?
Yes, 7 property owners within 200 feet.
Okay.
And then, I believe the applicants from the mobile tower siting, company are here to represent, this rezoning and the following 2 for the mobile tower siting.
Okay. Is there somebody that wishes to speak regarding the, Comprehensive map plan changes.
And is the red light on?
You sent out 7 letters? to
7.
Joining property owners?
To property owners within 200 feet.
Okay. So across the street would also be a property owner?
If it's within 200 feet, yeah.
Okay. And if there are property owners to the north of this parcel, I think it's the state of Wisconsin, you would only send out 1 notice? Is that how that would work?
1 to each property owner, yeah. So if there's like 3 properties owned by the same person, it'd go 1 letter to that person.
Okay. In looking at the adjoining parcels, it didn't look like there were duplicate owners. So I counted like 8 potential people that would be impacted by this. Or 8 entities, individuals, and then the state of Wisconsin on the 2 northern.
It's possible that I wrote the wrong number here, but it was measured out and every single one within 200 feet were sent.
I can look on the
You-
drive.
yeah, you wanna double
1
check?
second.
And you didn't receive any feedback?
Nope.
Well, while she's checking, sir, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you need to tell us?
So I'm Brad Whitmer. I'm from Raymaker and Associates. We represent Vertical Bridge, who is the tower owner. Verizon Wireless is the carrier who is interested in going on this tower. They have identified this location as this was the best location in their search ring that property owner was interested in a tower going onto their lot as well. So yeah, this is. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have, but yeah, this was located by Verizon Wireless as a heavily needed area to cover, and that is why this tower is being proposed.
Okay. Jamie?
There were 7 letters that were sent, plus the property owner letter, so it was to the Board of Public Lands, Kramer QDM, Roble Spees, which must be 2 different families, and the state of Wisconsin DNR were received letters.
So Verizon is the primary company on that tower then?
They will be the primary carrier going on the tower, yes.
Do you see any type 2s coming on board right away?
Usually the tower goes up before other carriers start reaching out for it. It is designed, I would have to double check, but typically they're designed for 3 to 4 carriers total
3 to
on
4?
them. I believe this one was 3, but I'd have to double check. It's possible. I can look real quick.
Well, there's no doubt that we need
Oh,
additional.
I'm not
coverage in town.
saying that. Absolutely, we need it here. I'm just curious because there are a number of carriers out there and people that come here and visit and people that live here, we absolutely need it. I'm just curious how many type 2s they have access, because they rent the space, so
Yeah, this is
it's a valid
designed.
question.
This is designed for 3 total carriers.
3 total, all right,
Yes.
because usually 3 or 4 come on, because we
Yes.
had them at the county when they started putting them up around the county.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
3 carriers plus Verizon, so.
no, including Verizon.
Okay.
So that would mean only Verizon and 2 more.
2 more is how the tower's designed. Now, that's not saying another carrier, they couldn't possibly someday expand out the compound and add another carrier, and then they would have to structurally make sure the tower is designed for additionally, but at this point, they're designing the tower for 3 total carriers.
For 3 total?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add that in the event that they started to look at that, we would have to look at whether that's a class 1 or not, co-location. If we're-
Class 1
Yeah,
co-location.
that might be a class 1 situation, but we'd have to look at the total modification if that
Tower
was.
improvements.
Yeah, and examine what those improvements were, but yes, I think the capacity would be there, it sounds like for the 3, and then if there were more expansions, there are other options, and that could include, the class 1.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
What is the lifespan of a tower like that?
I don't know if I could answer that question. Every time they modify a carrier, they have to check the capacity of the tower, make sure it's still structurally, but I know they last quite a while, but you do have to go do modifications on them to upgrade them from time to time as well.
Can you define a search ring and what you do to determine if this is in or out of a search ring?
So that would be Verizon's RF engineer. They identify the needs that they have. And then once they identify a location, they have a 1 mile, typically a 1 mile radius that they look. And that's where they start identifying property owners within that 1 mile area to try to get a tower to maximize their coverage needs in that area.
So they go and determine where there's like no type service, and this would enhance the availability of
Correct.
the people.
And they look at natural and man-made obstacles that could cause, you know, whether there's a cliff or a bluff or there's a building or trees that are blocking. And so they identify all that as far as blocking the coverage, and they use that to determine the height that they need of the tower, the antennas, and the area that they need.
I noticed in the package that we received that I did not see a sworn statement with regard to the co-location.
It's a new tower, it's not a co-location, and I believe the sworn statement is in the master packet, I believe.
Yeah, so there's gonna, and I was gonna read it with the next agenda item since it's the rezone, but we have a full packet for the entire construction of the tower in the office, but we would make this like triple the size if we're gonna include all that, so it's not in the packet today.
So the reason for the zoning change is because of basically the fence, the security fence issue?
So, yeah, so the tower can go in any zoning district. The security fencing cannot. So, and there's been discussion of, is a variance the better route for this, for the fencing? Variance would essentially take all power away from you guys of putting conditions on regarding fencing. They could decide not to go with that type of fencing. They don't need to go through with the variance if you guys don't approve this rezone. So the fencing, security fencing would be allowed in agricultural district, not allowed in residential district, which is, it is currently zoned.
Is this type of fencing, that the security fencing, is that a requirement by FCC or any other governmental organization that you need to have this type of a fence surrounding?
It's not
tower.
typically required by FCC. Most zoning areas do require fencing for security purposes. I do not believe yours did. But it is a very common on zoning required. But it's just protecting the equipment, anything that's in there from any body to abuse the equipment and stuff and hinder the service that's going. There is power in there, so it's protecting everybody. You don't want somebody to be able to climb the tower at any time. So it's just protecting, keeping people out from causing.
But it is not a requirement to have this type of fencing?
It is not a requirement, but it is common practice. And
Oh,
I
sorry.
was just gonna say, it's just typical chain link fencing is what they use.
With the barbed wire on the top, the
Cor-
three
cor-
you're
Correct.
proposing?
And then just one other point, that when the zoning administrator uses security fencing, she's using it in the way that the term is used in our ordinance. And really it relates to two different things in that distinguishes it from what otherwise would be open fencing when we're talking about chain link fencing. Height and the barbed wire would be the two things. So when it's mentioning security fencing, just be aware that she's talking about our zoning ordinance and our definition for a security fence by that ordinance.
Well, but the pictures provided to us did show security fencing.
Yep, and that's why the rezone for agriculture would be appropriate. And then in my recommended conditions, I put under fencing, applicant must obtain a fence permit for a security fence of 10 feet in height without barbed wire. And that would not be allowed in residential districts.
So we would not even need to do a rezone at all, is that
We would,
correct?
to have a 10-foot fence, yes.
To get to that, you'd have to do a rezone. Otherwise, yes, there's an avenue that could be followed through the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's probably not the ideal in this situation, given the strict three-part test and whether or not you actually meet the three-part test to get a variance.
Also, I do have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, there was a lot to go through.
I understand.
I have a lot of questions. On the drawing that you provided to us with regard to, well, first of all, I do have a question. It's considered a self-support tower, which means that it does not need any additional cabling or lines to secure it to the ground, correct? Okay. And the fall radius of 127.5 feet from the base of the tower?
Correct.
Can you explain that? So the height of the tower is 225 feet.
Yep.
127.5 from the base of the tower.
Yes.
The fall would be above that to the 225.
So they designed the tower to buckle in the case of failure, so they can keep it within 50% of a fall zone. So it's all within the structural design, which is above my degree, but it is in the structural design that they designed the tower to buckle and have points where if it does fail, it'll buckle and will not fall over the entire height of the tower, but 50% of the tower is how it's designed
Okay.
structurally.
Now, when you talk about the possibility of failure in the structure due to ice or a wind gust at a certain period, a certain threshold, would this buckle, if it were to exceed that, is this like where the buckle point would be, and that would be the maximum fall point?
Yeah, that would be the maximum fall point, is where it's designed at 50% of the tower height.
Okay. Okay.
You're okay.
Nick?
So one other point, and because I'm not sure that it was in your packet, but it is in the master packet, I believe there was an engineering certification as well, related to that fall zone. Just for the record, I think you did receive.
Right, I think we did receive.
Yeah, there was an engineering certificate letter.
Oh, wasn't there?
We're on the zoning aspect though, correct?
We're on the
And
rezone,
not on-
yeah.
Yeah, on the rezone. With regard to the rezoning, and I'm really not on board with the rezone, and that's because when I looked at the A2 district, and I looked at the R4, and to be very honest with you, in driving around that area, there are quite a few properties that are in the R4 right now, and there are single-family homes on it already. So these properties are sold, and now we're gonna be placing an A2 zone parcel in the middle of this. And I'm not so, and I know that no one is here from those areas, but everyone purchased property there with the understanding it was R4. And to place an A2 district in there because of a fencing requirement, to me, is just a little bit overboard. And I just, and then the difference between what is allowed in an A2 and what is allowed in an R4, and the purpose behind the two zoning areas, I just have issues with regard to that. And if there were another way to get that tower put up without modifying the zoning, I would be, on board with it, but not to change the zoning.
I would also agree, that's almost called spot zoning. We're gonna have an A2 right in the middle of A4, or R4s. And also, there's many hours have gone into the comp plan map modifications, and now we're quickly going in and changing it right away, amending it, which bothers me, We should try to live with the comp plan and stay with what was originally designed for that area, which is residential.
And Mr. Chair, if I could.
Go ahead,
just
Nick.
because it was mentioned that, by one commissioner, so just a clarifying point, the decision to retain the zoning as it is doesn't preclude the tower. Doesn't. What it or the issue, I think, is perhaps the fencing that can be worked through, but it doesn't preclude the tower.
I'm not disputing not having the tower
Right.
constructed. I'm disputing changing the zoning
Yeah.
to have the tower
Just,
To have the
erected.
fencing,
Pardon me?
to have the fencing.
I happen to agree with both commissioners. that, I agree. We worked for years and years to avoid spot zoning and to get away from it. And that's what the comp plan was about, and that's what was reworking the comp plan, and I know, were you on that committee, the subcommittee, or somebody here was, or, you know, Mike, were you on that subcommittee? Yeah.
I was.
And for years, we tried to get away from spot zoning and flag lots and everything else, and I'm not against the tower at all either. We know we've got back to, you know, and you talk about spot cell reception, that's what, and if this is gonna help us get that, even with only 2 additional type 2s on there besides Verizon, I'm all for that, you know, but going back to spot zoning, I'm with my 2 fellow commissioners here.
There's gotta be a way around the fencing,
Yeah,
so we can leave the tower in R4.
So is any
Yeah.
chain link fencing allowed in residential?
6 foot in height.
Open fencing is allowed, you'd be calling it open fencing with our ordinance, but yes, and it does have a height, limitation. There would be other avenues to address that, perhaps Board of Zoning Appeals, but certainly you can retain the zoning and be consistent with your comprehensive plan, so that would be an option.
I would hope our other commissioners would, you know, have questions or similar thoughts, or what are your thoughts with what's been stated, but if you have questions for us or other suggestions to help us get through this, but
So if the zoning remained R4, and currently is there the 6-foot height maximum on a fence, can then a variance be sought to increase the size of that fencing to 10 feet?
They can definitely go that route. It'd be up to Board of Appeals if they, and it's not if they approve it, it's if it meets the 3, if it meets the guidelines that would grant the variance.
But I think the threshold question, and to answer your point directly, in our list, because we have a list of authorized variances, fence deviation is one of the authorized variances, so the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
what other options are there besides a variance? Going to Board of Appeals.
Well, as far as it relates to the fence site,
Yeah,
I mean, short of choosing a fence or working through a fence that is listed that's permitted in the residential district, that would be your option.
that's it.
Look at the
Okay.
list and identify a fence that's appropriate for the residential district and, and set the standards according to that. But otherwise, they would be able to, it's a listed allowable variance, and they may have, unique property characteristics and undue hardship and, no harm to the public interest. As long as those 3 are met, technically, the Board of Zoning Appeals could grant a variance that allows for a deviation in the fence site. The other important thing is that what it wouldn't allow would be barbed wire, which I think is consistent with what, the recommendation is anyway.
But I think this gentleman said that you don't require a fence, correct?
It's common practice. I mean, I don't know if the tower owner or anybody want to locate if without security fencing. And I don't know if you'd want them to either, because then you start having people want to start climbing the tower and stuff.
Right, but just backing that up, but a 6-foot fence may work or could be asked possibly without barbed wire.
Without barbed wire, that's not a very secure fence. And I would be surprised if either Verizon or Vertical Bridge would be interested in that kind of liability.
I have a question with regard to the actual addresses of the parcels. 780 is on here, and then 758. 780 looks like it's the residential home, and 758 is the wooded parcel. And it was very confusing until I went out there and looked, which one we were discussing.
It's the same parcel, and that's why I changed it on there to 780, and that's why it's 780 in all the documents.
Well, it's
if you look them up, it's the exact same parcel. It used to be 2 parcels.
Oh, there's two address blocks out there, though,
Yeah,
758 and
parcel.
780. Okay, so
it's
what,
confusing.
on all of the Verizon documents, where it says 758 Anawa Lane, it's actually 780
Yep,
on all of these.
and they're both accurate,
Okay.
and it goes as the same parcel number. It's just in land records, it has two addresses for the exact same
Does it have
parcel.
two tax parcel numbers?
No, it's the same parcel number.
Okay, well, so it's the 75110 that we're discussing in the, okay.
I think it's just, like in land records, I think, and Jamie just said, they probably just forgot to pull one when they combined the parcels. And that could have been years and years ago. I don't know. I didn't look when it was combined.
Okay, let me just see if I have anything. Could you, on this satellite view here, can you show where exactly that tower is going to be situated?
So it's going in the southeast corner of the parcel.
Southeast corner.
Yes.
So that will be closer to the, where the home or the residential building is.
On the other parcel, it'd be close to the parcel to the east. I believe, and it's been a while since I've looked at the satellite, I believe, the residence for this parcel is to the west of where the tower's going.
Because when I was on Hanover, you, after you came off of Abe, you come to the house first, and then you came to the wooded area.
So, this is the entire section.
Mm-hmm.
This is their property. This is the tower.
Where's the residence? Can you,
I think the residence is over here.
okay, so it is to the east of where the,
Yep, the
where
residence
the tower
is
is going to be
like
located.
right here.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's gonna be right here. Right,
kind
it's
of
gonna be more skirting. Okay.
And then tower's gonna be where that 758 is.
Let's
If
see.
you show her, the tower is like almost right where the 758 address is.
So you see the house? Yeah. My finger's where the tower would go.
Right, so that doesn't match that picture.
Okay.
Match our picture.
Alright, so that's the house.
Which picture?
That's where looking at it. That's okay.
That was another thing that was confusing me as well on the, oh, that's for the conditional use permit. I'll get to that. That's the next one.
See, it goes this way, but the numbers are wrong or something.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
pictures are.
Is there any other commissioner questions? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against this project? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, and if you wanna stay up.
Just stay up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the next up. 7B, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct a communication tower on the property located at 780 Antelope Lane, owned by Yvonne and Michael Harris, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 5582, located in the Section 13, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-751-10, total area 40.201 acres.
Letters were sent to 7 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Included in the packet are the mobile tower siting permit application, tower removal bond, fall certification letter, site details, fencing plan, signage plan, new law relating to the local regulation of cell phone transmission towers. Mobile tower siting from town code. And then this packet provides all relevant information for the issuance of the conditional use permit. There is a full packet in the office of the full construction of this communication tower, if those are interested.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I would like to see the sworn statement with regard to the decision to have this property or this tower where it is. If I could get a copy of that.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think there was any tower close enough within the search ring for a sworn statement that was available. So I believe there is a co-location, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this one just had a co-location statement stating that there was not a tower within their 1 mile search radius.
I think that's.
I believe
accurate.
you're right, yeah.
So according to what I read with regard to the memorandum provided to us, let me see where that is, page 3.
Right here.
No, it was the memorandum pursuant with regard to the act that was passed with the budget in 2013. And there was a memorandum that we received where it said that one of the requirements was a sworn statement with regard to a new structure.
This one here.
I can't, oh, I found it. All right.
Required process.
The new law specifies.
Sworn statement attesting.
Which
to one of-
includes a sworn statement attesting to one of the following regarding co-location within the area. The co-location, and you're saying it would have been, what was the reasoning?
I believe there was not a tower located within the 1 mile search radius, to be able to co-locate on.
Okay,
So what he's saying is that there was a statement in there that gets to the co-location is infeasible, that there wasn't an appropriate.
okay, and that's a sworn statement then that was provided.
Yeah, I think,
You want me?
Oh, no, okay,
I'll go grab it.
no, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just
She
verifying.
didn't find it, so
'cause
I
this
know where it is.
These are the required processes, and I just wanna make sure that we're following them, you know. With regard, now the address issue was clarified, and I see on the drawings that were provided to us, there is one part here, right here in this corner, that it doesn't necessarily say what that is, and I don't have my magnifying glass, nor do I have my glasses. It says future carrier lease area by others, and is that where someone would be placing like a generator for their equipment, or?
Their entire ground equipment. So whatever equipment they need to operate the antennas to get that signal, that's the area that they have to use in the future for another carrier to put antennas at a different level.
Okay. Then up in the upper corner here, there is no designation as far as what this is at all, a pad or,
That would be the same thing. I don't know if there's the word term typical on the other one or not. But that would be the same thing where there is two different areas that are available.
There's no line going to that one, there's just, this one has something actually saying that it says future carrier lease area by others, typical, but this one has no line designating what it might be in the future.
it has a rectangle, but there's nothing
Nothing
designating
designating
what
what
is,
it might
what it be
be.
used for.
Okay, yeah, that is what it is designed for, is a lease area for another carrier
Okay,
in the
so it
future.
just might be a designation that you didn't draw out.
Misleader or something got missed in engineering, possible.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I have another hypothetical question, basically. You've, not to really jump ahead, but to jump ahead, you're gonna be, I believe, presenting for another tower later on,
Correct.
I think next. With regard to if, and I think I'm gonna answer my own question now that you've discussed the ring area. If you were to just construct this tower on where, right now, would there be a necessity to do the other tower?
Yes, there will be a gap in coverage between, like, antennas only go so far, of course. And so you're gonna start having, the further away from that tower you go, you're gonna start creating dead spots that you will no longer have cell phone service. And Verizon identified both of them as being required to complete that open area that they have.
So if this one were constructed, and that one isn't even thought about, but maybe down the road another month or so, would the tower that is being constructed here, would that be a co-location area where it might, not be needed?
So neither one of the locations had a tower within their search radius.
But if this one were constructed, would this one be within a search ring of 1520 Alpine?
No.
Okay.
I don't know, I didn't put exactly what the difference between the mileage between the two are, but they were not overlapping search rings.
So, I have a question for you then, please. When you say there'd be a dead zone, that cell tower that's currently off of County D is not a Verizon tower?
I am not familiar with what towers are available. I just know I did a search.
Okay,
I actually
thank you.
have that.
Because I was always thought that was a Verizon tower that rented space to other type twos, so, and then there's also one just south of town off of Badger Avenue, so I find that
I think there were
interesting.
3 towers and 7 antenna sites, and I don't understand the difference between them.
But I'm
in-
just curious, I thought, but you're the builder, so, but thank you. It raises other questions that I have
Yeah.
to research for myself. Thank you.
For sure. And just because there is, like, if there was a tower in that area, it does not mean that the tower owner doesn't have really high rent that makes it infeasible either. But I do know for these 2 locations, there was not a tower within their search radius.
But when
I
you
fill
said
out the
dead
application.
zone, it brought to my attention when you said dead zone, if that's
Mm-hmm.
Verizon and the one just a few miles away is Verizon, why would there be a dead zone? But it's something I'll have to educate myself on, but thank you.
And it could be terrain, and I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
what all's
Yes,
between the 2, but, you know, so you have terrain that does block sometimes.
but they
or
could both
different-
be Verizon towers, but you'd still have dead zone. All right.
Yeah, and they might require, if it is a Verizon, they might require all 3 to create a full,
Circle around
enclosed.
town providing service, but
correct.
I understand. So they could be the main one, and there could be type 2 subs on it renting, but you could still have dead zones, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Or a mile 2 apart.
and just because there's another carrier on it, like the co-location would be a whole different carrier. So like Verizon won't use AT&T instance, their antennas. They don't work interchangeably. So like a co-location would be a whole different carrier. So we have 2 different carriers that can go on the towers that we are proposing.
Okay, thank you.
So I did a search of our area. Actually, I did it at 1520 Alpine. But in any event, there were 3 registered towers within 3 miles. One was within 0.4 miles. There were 4 non-registered towers. I don't understand what a non-registered tower is.
Through the FCC? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I got this through antennasearch.com.
Okay. So the FCC does not require an antenna to be registered through the FCC if it's under 200 feet and if it's not within an airport danger area.
Okay. These are non-registered towers. There are multiple antennas and single antennas that are showing up. There's quite a few of them, but these are non-registered towers. So is that still the height difference on the tower?
I'm guessing they're below 200 feet. It would be a non-registered tower.
Your search wouldn't have identified towers that do not carry cell service, though,
Cor-
correct?
correct.
Like, there's a radio tower just to the north of us. It
That
wouldn't
would
have
be that
identified-
Berry radio company that has
Yeah.
that tower.
Correct.
Okay,
Right,
so
okay.
you're, when you talk about duplicate towers or additional towers, you're only identifying cell towers, not other
Correct.
antennas or
Okay.
towers.
Yeah.
All right. I just did a quick Google map, and the distance between these two is 8 miles. The shortest route is 8 miles between the location of the two requests.
It's on opposite sides of town, right? Yeah.
Could I just ask an additional question? Some of the things that we've been hearing from residents would be lighting, night lighting, interference with other operation of TV antenna, things in their home. Could you just talk about what that potentially would be with placement of the towers?
So as far as TV and radio interference, it really shouldn't interfere too much. You run different frequencies and everything. So it really shouldn't, unless it's direct impact between the tower and the receiving and the transmitting. It's possible you could have some interference. As far as lighting, so the FAA has certain lighting restrictions that, and I don't know if we have this, determination and no hazard back yet or not, which the FAA will determine if there's lighting required or not. If there is not required by the FAA, we do not typically light the towers. And usually that's a height determination or if it's close to an airport. So there should not be any tower lighting unless the FAA requires it.
And if they did require it, could you talk a little bit about what would the colors of the lights be versus day or night?
So daytime, they're white strobes, and at nighttime, they're red strobes. And then once you get to a certain height, which I don't believe these towers are, but the FAA may require the same thing in the center of the tower as well. But that's only if the FAA requires it.
Nick?
And I would just make a note that you all had several potential conditions, and there is one related to light that you might want to consider.
And when you say that it's not likely that you would get interference, are there ways that if interference would occur, that could be corrected?
I think the only interference that you would run into would be if the tower is directly between the transmitting and the receiving. So maybe the homeowner would have to move their TV antenna or something, but that would be the only interference that I would be aware of that could happen.
Is there is it like within 200 feet of the tower or 400 feet of the tower where they would have more of that kind of interference?
I couldn't speak to that for sure.
Is there any excessive noise remittance from the tower?
Nope, there is a backup power generator, so if power is lost or through maintenance, they will run. So I don't know what their maintenance schedule is, but typically once a month, they'll run it for like an hour or two just to make sure it works. So when there's power failure, otherwise it'd just be power failure. Other than that, there is no
Okay,
noise. that would
thank
be
you,
transmitted.
thanks.
Good? Okay. All right, we'll move on to 7C then. Consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct a communication tower on the property located at 1520 Alpine Drive, owned by STFC Properties, LLC, also described as part of the southeast 1/4, northeast 1/4 of Lot 6 of CSM 4096, located in Section 11, Town 20 North, Range 5 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-139, total area 4.650 acres. Emily?
Letters were sent to 7 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. The same information was provided for this item as the previous.
Okay.
Is there anything, sir, you want to tell us about this specific tower and tower site?
No, they should be both very similar. This one, I believe, is sharing the driveway with a business that is part of, so it shouldn't need a new driveway, but other than that, I think they're very similar sites.
Again, with the fall radius, it's 97.5. Your tower is 100. Oops. So it's the same type of a situation that we discussed on the
Be
last.
50% of the tower height.
And I see the setback is just a smidge over these fall, areas. Um, And again, this is the design of the tower is where there would be, it's a self-support tower.
Correct.
The building that is there on that property, is that just like a storage unit, a storage facility of some kind? It's not occupied by anybody? or-
I'm not familiar what type of business it is. I have not met the property myself.
It's a storage.
Storage unit.
Yeah, a rentable storage unit.
Is it leased out, or is there like liability issues if you have something like that on your property and something were to happen to that tower?
So certainly a consideration for the individual that's choosing to rent that space and lease that space out, since I believe it's a commercial property.
So it's at your own risk that you go on there and the tower, and you're inside grabbing your lampshade or something, and the tower decides to fall.
Well, and the fall radius would be outside of where, I guess it'd be, based on the picture, the fall radius is not, like, it's not gonna be near the storage unit.
So it's more than 97.5 feet away from the tower.
The building, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
And then, I just wanna go through everything real quick here. Just make sure. Okay. I have no more questions on that one.
Okay. Gentlemen, anything? Is there anybody in the audience that has any comments regarding the proposed conditional use permit for the tower at 1520 Alpine? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Consideration 7D, consideration of a preliminary plat for Timberline Park to be located at the property owned by the town of Rome, described as follows: parcel numbers 030-654 and 030-656-5. All parcels also described as part of Section 8, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. Total area 73.602 acres. Emily?
Letters were sent to 12 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. This preliminary plat is for road development in Rome Town Center. As a preliminary plat, this item is a recommendation to town board, which will return to plan commission for a final plat review.
Jamie, do you wanna speak on this?
So
If you would, please.
this preliminary plat, the road right-of-way for the extension of Timberline Parkway and what's been referred to as Vienna Trail, was not placed with the original development of Rome Town Center. This is the engineering that would be done, so this would be allocated as road right-of-way in Adams County land records. But because it's more than a 4-parcel split with doing that, it's a land subdivision via ordinance, which is what it requires, it to come through here and to town board. But what you're really doing is subsetting out those sections that we have zoned within Rome Town Center for those roads to go through. So you can see that eventual road that would be put in Vienna Trail and the rest of Timberline being developed.
In reviewing the preliminary plat review ordinance area, it looked like perhaps even in this plat, we should have shown or done something with regard to those walking paths, that they were going to be, that they were having in the Rome Town Center. And there's no designation on the plats that show the walking paths or public access to?
So we have because the town owns except for one parcel, the town owns that property. When we've done sales, we've made coordination for those walking paths because we know that we wouldn't have a sidewalk system likely in the future. And so we've either done easement or we have set property slightly off center to continue to have those walking paths evident. So they wouldn't necessarily be put onto a plat map, but we have identified that through our sale of that property to maintain the trail system through the park.
And all other requirements for preliminary plat have been reviewed, and I'm working with the engineering company to ensure all of those are there for once we get the final plat. So I've done a full review of it.
So it isn't necessary at all to put this on a preliminary plat?
Can I?
Go ahead, Nick, please.
Just a couple general thoughts. I would agree with what's been said as far as options that could exist if we didn't put it on the plan. That said, certainly we could, and I would only say we would, we'd go in that direction if we knew those were where the paths were going to be, right? Because then it would make sense to include it on the preliminary and final plat. This would be the time that we could, I mean, that's what this process is, right? That's why we're doing it at the preliminary plat, and you'd see it at the final plat. If that's something that you'd want to make a recommendation regarding, we definitely could. My only comment again being, know that that's where those paths are going to be, because we have, I mean, otherwise we're going to have to alter things in that regard versus account for it at the later point during property sales.
And it would be difficult not knowing what that development looks like to put the path in it, where if we are able to work with the developer and we might need to adjust the path slightly, then we could, right? We know we have the commitment to keeping the paths there.
And then we don't know what properties are gonna look like either. So if a property ends up falling like this and the path goes here, it'd be very hard to get whatever development into that property.
Let me ask this question. Have any of these trails in those parcels back there been cleared yet?
The trails are grass. They are
Correct.
cleared, but they're just grass.
But those have come up in conversations recently, have they not?
For property sales,
Yes,
yes, and
correct.
we have said we wanna maintain that trail system and either adjust it slightly where the property was sold in order for the town to maintain ownership of that trail.
That,
And you guys are gonna see every single site plan. So there's gonna be assurance that they're gonna stay.
without disclosing confidential conversations, I think in the best interest of what was just being discussed, I think it might be in our best interest if they're on this map and we're talking about future sales. I think it's worth the discussion to have those trails as part of future development and to continue maintaining them even though they're grass, to have them on the plat map. That would be my comment.
But do you want to sacrifice the sale because of the,
We haven't sacrificed sales before, Jerry, and
but you
it-
could, if you put them on here, then that means they have to stay there. Sale would have to, property would have to work
Jerry?
around them.
I understand.
But then,
It's part-
in another aspect, if we have a potential buyer that doesn't wanna have any kind of the walking path on their property, what recourse does the town have to ensure that, yes, you are going to have a walking path without having it on a plat or without having the easement actually built into the lot?
Site plan of operation.
But we own the property, right? So we would say that as part of a condition of sale and put it in as part of the developer's agreement,
That a walking path must be
that a trail must be maintained.
maintained?
Which we've done before.
So I tend to, and again, same with the commissioner's statements, you know, I don't wanna get into specific conversations. I do, tend to, advise against reflecting it as an easement. We have done it in the past though, so it is an option. The options we would have would be to not sell the property, right? That'd be one option, always exists. The other option would be to, I mean, you'd have to re-record, right? You'd have to do it as probably a CSM and reconfigure that lot in the event that you wanted to adjust that, but it would mean adjusting the trail, if you're moving the trail, otherwise you're keeping it there, and that's why I stress the importance, if you're going in this road, down this path, no pun intended, to make sure that's the location. And I see, you know, I mean, if we're doing it based off of the map that we have, that has had, you know, some previous approval, that would be maybe some grounds to do it. Just make sure that that's where you want, because it's easier to know that going into it and set it that way than to try to unravel that after the fact. So in other words, certainly an option, can do it. There may be good reason to do it, if we know that that's where the path is going to remain. I tend to advise, and I, you know, this is a general comment, but it's what I would say, in any case, with the, you know, sale of property. I advise to retain ownership rather than easement. It's just always cleaner.
On the plat that is provided to us, from what I read, and I may have misread it, that it should show the nearest main, whether it's a sewer or water, and this is going to be municipal water. Where is the nearest main on the plat map or the adjoining properties that,
They received a list of comments that need to be fixed for the final plat.
okay, and the same goes for the soil eval,
Yep.
but it's not on here, so they're gonna
It'll
fix
be-
it?
Yeah, it'll be on the next one. They're going to adhere to all the requirements. That's not we miss them and then they're not there.
I
It's
thought
a-
this was part of the preliminary plat process.
So speaking to the process, prior to it getting to you, typically Emily and I will meet and review a plat map really against everything you're doing, right? We do the exact same thing. We communicate a number of deficiencies, same things you're pointing out. I do think going forward, it may be beneficial to provide you that supplemental information so you can see, because so far you've identified, and I'm guessing if you identified a number of things, we've identified the same things and communicated that already.
But what I'm trying to say though too is, our job is to follow the ordinance as far as preliminary plat approval, or letting this go forward. And these are things that we should know or have access to or be aware of for us to make a decision, to make a recommendation to the town board. That's,
100% agree, and you should have that information.
okay, thank you.
The last question I would have would be, have we given any thought to this plat map? And would it be proper to put in the storm filtration basin at this time? Is that should we have that on the plat map as well?
So that was, you'll see that indicated on the map that we've done,
Okay, yes?
the map that we've done for Rome Town Center. With the development of the road, those roads would have a ditch line through them, and there is some, it's not the same sense of a sewer system or a water channeling system, but there is some funneling through Rome Town Center that was built in when that first development was done. You wouldn't need an additional stormwater basin. That ditch line would accommodate it with our soil. So the engineer, general engineering said you wouldn't need an additional ponding area like that first map did indicate.
You have a statement to that effect?
We can ask for them to include that with the final plat, yes.
I would want that for town board then, before we do a final approval, and then we should, if that's the case, then I guess we wouldn't need it on this map anymore?
We could take it off once we would have the actual platting done, yes.
Okay.
And you can make it part of your recommendation here, so it falls at the right time, because if that's the thought was that it be received before the town board get it, then you would just make that part of your recommendation.
I guess I would say, because this is light industrial back here, so that to me, I guess as a plan commissioner, this is a storm filtration basin back here that was recommended at that time when the park was designed, and this is storm filtration here. This is light industrial, this is multifamily housing. So I guess I would like a statement from the engineering company saying that that's no longer needed.
And if I'm incorrect in that interpretation, then I would ask him to more clearly identify it on the plat where it should be located.
Yes, before we would have, going forward, before the town board would make its final approval of that plat map.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
just
sir.
a general statement, not to sound like we're taking 2 steps back on this, but what's being handed out here is the result of our review. And so to the previous statement, this should lay out all the things that we saw as deficient to the checklist. I call it a checklist. But our ordinance that needed to be addressed and should be likely part of your any recommendation you can.
Thank you.
Oh, obtained from the county, so we, okay, says stormwater management plan. Obtained from county, and then we'll have a statement from the engineer. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Make that part of our recommendation, okay.
You are so patient.
Well, we wanna do it right.
Exactly. So, okay, moving on. Unless somebody has some other additional questions? Okay. 7E, consideration of a site plan of operation for Tiffany Savecki for the property located at 637 Hampton Trail, also described as Lot 21 of Hampton Court addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northeast one quarter, section 34, town 20 north, range 5 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-3012. Emily?
Letters were sent to 10 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. The site plan of operation would be for the operation of the beverage catering business in the residential district. That is not approval of the proposed buildings. The site plan of operation is needed because the business does not adhere to the regulations surrounding home occupations. Included in the packet is section 36016, home occupations in residential districts. Highlighted are the standards that this business does not comply with. And then so this afternoon I was made aware that Lake Arrowhead does not allow home businesses. And Heather from the Member Services Coordinator over at Lake Arrowhead Association did provide a letter literally 10 minutes before this meeting, so I apologize that I did not get that to you. If you have, I guess, do you want me to read it all?
Yeah, I think we should make that letter part of the record.
To whom it may concern, I am the liaison between Lake Arrowhead members and our Architectural and Environmental Control Committee. I'm reaching out to you this afternoon concerning the application submitted from Tiffany Savecki regarding the request for a home business approval at 637 Hampton Trail and 639 Hampton Trail, Nakusa, Wisconsin, 54457. I request kindly that you table this application until the Lake Arrowhead Association Architectural and Environmental Control Committee receives the proper documents and can verify compliance with our covenants. If you have any other questions, or if you have any questions regarding Lake Arrowhead restrictions, please contact me. And then the following is her contact information, 715-325-2904 by phone or her email, memberservices@lakearrowheadgolf.com.
Did you make it a cut? I can.
Yeah, can you?
Yep, excellent.
Are you looking for guidance?
Yes, please.
So just note that this is the public hearing part. It's been read in as part of the record, that you can still conduct the public hearing.
Okay.
The tabling that's being asked for, if you're going to consider that, would be at the actual agenda item.
And Tiffany is here.
Okay, ma'am, do you want to step up and, can you give us a understanding of what you're proposing here?
So this is just the moving of a business that's already operational in Rome. The business is still licensed and running out of my previous address as of a week ago, at 392 Leeds Court. It's a business that I have been running there for over 4 years now, 4 years. And it's just moving because I unfortunately had to sell the home, and relocate to a home that I begged to have because there's nothing out there. So, otherwise I wouldn't be moving. And so that is really kind of, the gist is just, it's a business that's already operational in Rome and has been for 4 years, and it's just moving to a different location.
Do you remember what the conditions were in June of 19 with regard to your conditional use permit at that time?
Following the zoning guidance and requirements, no signage, I was allowed as part of my site plan, it was I have 2 trailers, I'm not to exceed that, on the property, those sorts of things. And I actually have a storage unit that I keep the trailers in, so they're not even there anymore, so.
I think it also allowed for the trailers to be parked outside, because there wasn't.
Yes, that
room
was
in- yeah, yeah.
the 2 trailers on the property. During heavy business season, I keep them going, but in off-business season, I don't keep them around.
Nick?
Just a question, I'm not sure if it's best for the zoning administrator or the applicant, but I do note that there are several standards that are noted here as not met. One of them being no activity that indicates from the exterior that the building is being used for any purpose other than that as a dwelling. There's a number of ways that could happen. For example, signage or something. Can somebody speak?
trailers.
The trailer is what led you to that determination? It's not that there's going to be a sign or anything like that?
To my understanding, there was, the business was, it was indicated from the exterior of the previous, build, or dwelling, that there was business happening there. There's going to be, I believe you said 75 to 100 people a year coming and going from the property. No, that's not tons, but every couple days. And then that's what led me to number 2, that is not being met. Number 5, occupation shall be carried solely within either the main or accessory building and cannot utilize more than 25% of the gross area. Pretty explanatory. If she's gonna use an entire garage, it's obviously over 25%. And then it is not a permitted business. So I circled number 2 under permitted businesses. Zoning administrator shall forward all applications to planning commission for a public hearing, review, and consideration.
Thank you. So just a couple other follow-up questions to that then. Going back to number 2, then to the applicant, so I don't necessarily care about the content of the advertisement or sign that would be on the side of your trailer. Do you have messages or some sign? You know, I just trying to understand if the presence of the trailers outside are going to indicate the operation of a business, or I'm just trying to reconcile all of that because this is a real concern in residential districts, and so I would ask you maybe to speak to what from the outside, you know, somebody driving past, is there going to be things that you will have there that indicate the operation of a business?
From the outside, other than a trailer, no. On the front of one trailer is a, I don't know, 12 by 18 sign that has my business phone number on it, and it's on the cooling unit. On my second trailer, there is a maybe 18 by 18 very small sign compared to the size of the trailer that just says JWS Beverage, and that's it as far as any indication of a business on the outside.
And I think you had spoke to it about your other location, but are the trailers stored outside? Are you putting them inside? You know, so there's an advertisement on the trailers, both of them. You know, maybe a small one, but there's an advertisement. Are you storing those inside? Will you have the ability to store those inside, or is the intention to store them outside at all times?
So a majority of the time, the trailers would be stored in the storage unit that I have for the trailers. When the trailers are in use, they would be stored at the home, by the garage, not in front or along the road. So it wouldn't be immediately viewable from anybody.
And so when you say when they're in use, what does in use mean to you?
So my business is a seasonal business. Essentially June through October is the time that, I'm operating. Very small percentage off-season that I'd operate. And so if the trailers are going out on a weekend, just loading them, getting them off to the next place, unloading when they're done, and it's one night a week, and then they're done for until the next weekend or the next event.
Right, but between that then time and the next event, then what you're saying is in use to you means the season. Because it sounds like what you're doing is pulling that trailer back during the season, and storing them, proposing storing them outside.
If I need to use a trailer, within a week of itself, then yes, I keep it around. If it's, anywhere more than 2 weeks, I put it back into storage. It's annoying to have a trailer sitting around if you're not using them, and I don't want them getting sun beaten and sun bleached, so.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
So the garage that you say will be built is not going to be used to store the trailers? Simply for your own personal use then, your vehicle?
It's going to be for product use and personal use. So I would say a 30-foot length wall of the garage would be used for product, equipment, supplies, and the rest of it would be to park my truck and lawnmower.
You also say that you are planning on consolidating the two lots together.
Yep, that's already in the works.
Okay, the criteria for a consolidated lot is just there, you don't have to have like a building halfway over it or like a sewer system or nothing, right?
No,
Likely that means the survey and the CSM is probably.
Okay.
what-
Yep. And the survey was done last week, and they were taking care of that whole process. As I understand it, it's Badger taking care of that.
And you were also anticipating building a pole barn at some point?
I've actually tabled that. A garage will be it, and I will keep, it's more financially prudent for me to keep the trailers in a storage facility. I would have to take down a lot of trees. I would have to bring in a lot of fill to put in a pole building, and that's not something that financially I want to take on, and nor do I want to have that kind of impact on the lot next to me. I'd rather my kids play in the trees.
I provided those just because she mentioned them, they would have nothing to do with the approval.
Right, I was just kind of curious as to the possible future building and use of it. You said that client visits would be 50 to 75 per year with vendor deliveries. Now, what size vehicles do your vendors utilize? Are these large semi-trucks or are they?
So one vendor is Holiday Wholesale, so they have I'm sure you've seen their green truck. It's not a full semi-truck. I have all the same vendors as like the Quick Trip or Pritzels, but I get deliveries once a month from each of them. So I just do one big delivery. Again, I don't want to pay their delivery fees, so I consolidate it as much as possible. Bud Light has a regular semi-truck, but like Lee Beverage will send in basically a vehicle, a van. It's a small van.
Now, when these vendors are dropping off the product, it's a semi-truck, you're on a cul-de-sac. How many other properties are these trucks going to be blocking during the busy season when we have high recreational users?
It would only block my lots, and I've been on the cul-de-sac, going around it. There's ample space for a truck to get in there and around without having to go off-road or anything.
Or blocking other parcels?
Correct. And I did want to note, and this is probably more for you, in her letter, she notes 637 and 639, and that's incorrect. It's 635 and 637.
Okay.
So, if you need to note that. Sorry, before I forgot.
Are those
I'll let her
deliveries
know.
being made now to your current address?
They have not been, because my season doesn't really start up again until June. But yes, they were. It was part
They were
of the previous,
previous?
yep.
Okay, which was Leeds Court. And the other thing I would just point out is that when we're under weight restrictions in spring, you will wanna make sure that you've adjusted deliveries, cause those
Yes.
trucks would not be allowed on roads when we're in weight
Yes.
season. Okay.
Yep.
Is Leeds Court all built up on all the parcels? What, like,
A lot of them are.
okay. Okay. And there's been no issues with the neighbors with regard to blocking or?
No,
Okay.
nope, and they're delivery drivers, they have to get places fast, so they're in, they're out, and very efficient.
So you are going to be living at the property?
Yes, I am there now. I have occupancy for my business per what I needed through the state. I had occupancy for the home after I sold it until the end of April. And until I could get through the process, I moved into the Hampton Trail. I'm living there and own it, and have occupancy for the business until, the process is through, so.
Can I just ask a general question on that pole barn? And just a general question. If you build a pole barn, is there supposed to be a residence attached to a pole barn, or is that special zoning or something?
What do you mean attached?
As part of a pole barn, that there has to be,
There has to be a house on the property,
on the property?
Unless you're in FR zone,
then there cannot be a house in
Right.
FR, yes.
but there could be a pole barn.
I actually think that, if I can just interject here, I actually think the A&E committee is gonna have a lot, it's actually, a lot of this is gonna come before the A&E committee, and they'll have a lot of questions that they'll have regarding this whole entire thing, because their covenants are gonna have to cover a lot of this, Tiffany, before any of this can come back, before we can do anything with this for you, because the covenants are very strict regarding a lot of the questions we just had.
Okay.
As far as a home-based business, as far as trucks going in and out of cul-de-sacs, as far as a pole barn next to, or a garage-type pole barn with a home. I think those questions will be answered first before the A&E committee, before it can really come back to us, before a decision can be made, but I think that letter will have to see what we can do. But thank you for all the information, it's been very, very helpful, and I wish you much success with, your business plan is nice, it's enjoyable, so.
It's been very successful.
Yes, it
Hopefully
has
continue
been.
going that way.
Yes, and much continued success to you, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anybody in the audience that has any concerns regarding this, site plan or plan of operation? Okay, thank you, ma'am. 7F, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: the short-term rental at the property located at 489 St. Andrews Trail, owned by Jeffrey and Cynthia Zerwanka, also described as Lot 82 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northeast 1/4, southeast 1/4, section 19, and the northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 20, all a part of Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-2772. Emily?
Letters were sent to 6 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Staff recommends a maximum occupancy of 8, maximum vehicles of 4 to be parked on hard surfaces, not on the lawn or grass at the property. So this goes for all short-term rental applicants for the next 4 as well. All short-term rental applicants have completed all license requirements, including the property manager within 25 miles on record with the town. And Jeff and Cynthia are here.
Cottage Keepers is here. Deb
Cottage
from
keepers are here.
Okay.
Deb, you wanna just come up to the mic in case there are questions?
Received one letter, correct? Is that what this one
Yep.
is?
Did you get a letter on this property?
Yeah, there's
No,
one.
there's one from Nottingham Court.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake, Mr. Chairman.
Hi there.
Hi,
What would you, can you tell us about what's proposed there and?
I'm Deb with Cottage Keeper. We're the property management for the company, or for the home. So we do all the licensing, we get everything, we send out, you know, what they need to do. Once they get there, they can't park on the road, they can't do this, they can't do that. They get all that with their check-in information. So we really monitor our homes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the host compliance people that the town has on board as far as monitoring short-term rentals? Okay. Does anyone have any questions of this young lady?
I've been getting a lot of complaints, especially on properties on the golf courses, about tenants and people utilizing the golf course as their playground and their park. And I'm not sure if there's something we can do or to maybe have the property managers or the property owners, in addition to what they can and cannot do, also reminding them that if they don't pay or something to use the course, it would be considered a trespass. So I'm not sure.
We can add that to our check-in instructions, that they're not allowed to go on the actual golf course.
Well, unless they pay their fee to go if they're 18 or.
Well, right, exactly. You know, we could add that to the,
We could also send something to Lake Arrowhead that they could share out in a newsletter too, or we can identify just those owners that are within Lake Arrowhead to share as a reminder. I mean, the most appropriate way is for them to call the 24-hour hotline. They're gonna call the property owner or the representative and say, you have an issue at the property, it needs to get corrected. And those renters, they would have that contact information, would be contacted and said, you need to leave the course.
And I also tell them about the service that the town
Yeah.
of Rome has and offer that to them, or call the police department if, you know, it gets to a certain point. And they don't like to squeal. They don't wanna be that neighbor that creates a problem.
Yeah, and
So,
they
and
can-
it's difficult, and I'm not sure, you know, if we, by additionally posting this, have the property managers do something like that.
yeah, I can add
That
it
may
to ours.
help.
And I'm the one on call.
You can share that.
You know, if they would complain, I would get the call, and then I would call the renter and address it right away, so.
Maybe we've covered this before, but are most of the property management companies, are they putting like material out in these different properties, short-term rentals that
We
say,
do.
this is our complaint, or this is our compliance
Oh,
company if
no,
you
we
have
don't.
issues? Cause that might be something that we could encourage them to do. If
Right.
you're a short-term rental company, this is the compliance number, you know, if there's, I don't know.
Yeah, we can do that.
Is that something we could put in a condition? That,
We also have those part of ordinance that they display,
a set of rules.
they display a set of rules and that they keep a book on property with information about the town. I mean, that's part of ordinance now. That's not the precise wording, but it's something to that effect, and all of their licenses include the major ordinances in town, like fireworks, noise, are part of their license that they need to display in the property.
I was
We
going
have
to,
all that there.
I was going to say, if it's something in addition to what we require by ordinance, yeah, it's a possibility. If it's related to a particular application, it may be perfectly reasonable to make that a condition. So you'd have to look at the application, you know, case by case, and if there's something that you wanted to build into that from a condition standpoint, you could do that.
I would note, if you call host compliance, you can remain anonymous, but all of the calls are recorded. Cause the town receives a recording of the calls once it's placed.
I know that voice.
I don't know anybody's voice. Can ask my significant other.
Good? Okay, any other questions, gentlemen? Anybody in the audience wish to speak regarding this,
Those are options like that.
property at 49 St. Andrews Trail? Okay, you'll be back up shortly. 7G, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: the short-term rental at the property located at 368 Nottingham Court, owned by Ashley and Justin Haley, also described as Lot 15 of Nottingham addition to Lake Sherwood, located in northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 16, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2274. Emily?
Letters were sent to 9 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Staff recommends a maximum occupancy of 4, maximum vehicles of 2 to be parked on hard surfaces, not on the lawn or grass at the property. And
Justin is here.
Justin is here.
Aye. We did receive an email regarding, your property on Nottingham Court. I don't know if you were given a copy of the email or not.
Nope.
It's quite lengthy. Do we, Nick, need to make this part of the record?
You can certainly read it in. I believe our past practice has been to do so.
Okay. This is directed to Emily Zeddy, the zoning administrator, regarding the short-term rental at 368 Nottingham Court, Lot 15. We, Norbert and Carl Effelt, have owned the property at 371 Nottingham Court since September 2000 and have retired and lived at the property full-time since 2010. We are a party of interest regarding the short-term rental at 368 Nottingham Court because we live within 200 feet, as do all the other owners in the Nottingham Court cul-de-sac because of its small size. We have some concerns about the short-term rental in order to preserve life in our cul-de-sac as we've known it for nearly 23 years. Number one, parking. Our cul-de-sac is one of the smallest in the town of Rome, and parking is a problem. Several neighbors have been utilizing the middle of the cul-de-sac for additional parking, even though the town of Rome recently made necessary improvements to mitigate stormwater runoff. Brad Mortensen made it clear that there should be no parking on the median of the cul-de-sac, which compacts the soil and hinders it from absorbing water. Our concern is that although it may be possible to park 2 vehicles in front of 368 Nottingham Court, if the renters bring a trailer, boat, or UTV, there is nowhere for them to park on the rental property. And number 2, pets. We have a number of dogs in the cul-de-sac owned by full-time and part-time owners. We also have abundant wildlife in our neighborhood, including many deer and fawns. We would hope that the rental property would have a no pets policy, so we don't have to be concerned about irresponsible pet owners failing to clean up after or leash their dogs, unattended dogs barking, or letting them chase other dogs or wildlife. And number 3, trash. We are also concerned about trash removal since renters will not have access to the Rome transfer site. Leaving trash, including food waste, outside in trash cans makes a real mess for the rest of us if the cans get tipped over by animals or the wind. There has to be a plan in place for any renters to remove all trash when they leave. And number 4, enforcing rental policies. We feel that the renters must be made aware of the rental standards and rules, Article 7, 234-61 of the zoning code. If there are issues or concerns with any renters as permanent residents, we need to know who will be enforcing the rules and how we can express concerns, expecting a prompt response either from host compliance or the Rome Police. This is from Norbert and Carl Effelt, 371 Nottingham Court. Email is nkaeffelt@gmail.com, and their cell phone is on the email as well. Okay, what would you like to tell us?
Well, so I purchased with my wife 368 Nottingham Court. I own a second home on Camelot. I've owned that since 2020, and so the intention of this, I guess, was my wife really wanted an A-frame, and we were going to originally use it as kind of overflow. She's an interior designer, so we bought it and renovated it. It's gone through extensive renovation. We didn't add on at all to the property. We kept the original A-frame structure, but we did all interior renovations. We did add a bedroom, so we added a bump out. But with that particular, the idea was that we would have overflow for our other properties. After purchasing, I brought on co-owner, my friend Joe is here. He lives in Mequon with his wife and kids, as well as my father-in-law, who also loved the area. So coming up to our place, we've just had people that have loved the area. It still is that intent, is that it's going to be overflow and primarily used by us, as well as his family and my father-in-law, just to help with some of the expenses. The renovation was significantly more than we expected, but just to help with some of the expenses of kind of the annual, we brought in just the possibility of short-term rentals. Yeah. To address some of these, so parking will be required on site. I do believe, with the 2 cars, we can just enforce, in our rules and regulations that like parking has to be in there. If they do have a boat, I don't know if that counts towards the 2, but we have a room that they could pull in and still have a boat attached. In our, I could get, we have quite a long driveway, where they could. But with that said, I mean, we're happy to put in any rules in place that would say, hey, there's nothing that can be parked in the center. We do have a no pets policy. So with the renovations we did a very high-end renovation in there. We do not want that to be impacted at all. So we are doing no pets. Trash is going to be taken by our cleaners. They agreed to take that and dispose of it after every stay, on the stays we do have. And yeah, in regards to that last one. But
The short-term rental, or the town requires you have a property manager within a 25-mile radius of that property
Yep.
if it's gonna be used?
Yep.
Do you have somebody in place for that?
I do. Yep. She's Sandy Spanksy, and she's a property manager out of Rapids that actually lives in the town room.
Okay.
Yep.
We have her contact information on file. All of the properties have someone on file within 25 miles.
Yep. We have her for any general. I also have a maintenance tech that would come for if anything were wrong that needed to be maintained. Yep.
In driving past the property and looking at, it didn't appear to me as there's a defined driveway.
There is now. It was put in today. I got a picture.
I took a
You wanna
picture
see it?
yesterday.
You want to see the picture?
Good timing.
Well, actually, it was on, yeah, it was yesterday, it was raining. I've got the,
raindrops.
Can I come up? You want to see?
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Awesome driveway,
then.
very
Nice.
nice.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see what we do have a driveway in.
All right.
well, that was my question.
Yep. That's why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed. I wouldn't come
Oh.
normally like this. I didn't bring other clothes.
Does anybody have any other questions for this gentleman? Is there anyone in the audience that has any wish to speak regarding this Nottingham Court property? Sir?
Norbert Appel,
Okay.
371.
Do you want to come up to the
Yeah,
mic?
please.
Just so,
Norm?
please.
I can sign it.
Yep, sign your name and address, please.
I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Carol is.
Carol,
K-A-R-O-L.
okay.
It's like C-A-R-O-L, different spelling.
I got you.
It's fancier.
I'll get it right the next time.
Yes, and no, nice to see you.
What would you like to say, sir?
I guess I kind of wonder about the need for a short-term license for rental when around our cul-de-sac over the last 20-some years, kids come up and stay at parents' house on the weekend. It's not a short-term rental, it's that they're just using the place. And it kind of sounds like that might be a little bit of what's going on here. And the rules for a short-term rental seem to be different than they are for a permanent residence where somebody comes up on weekends, or even for us living there full-time. And if they come, they bring ATVs, trailers. Sometimes it's a business thing where they bring their company employees as a perk for doing good. And our little cul-de-sac's got cars parked up and down the right of way on both sides because there's no really paved parking area. You're either on the road driving or you're on the grass.
Okay.
And so there's times when you end up having to go up there and say, could you move your vehicle so we can get out and go grocery shopping? Because our driveway is blocked. And Justin knows that driveways actually abut each other because these are all pie-shaped lots. If you drove around Nottingham, it's probably not 200 feet from one right-of-way or property line across the cul-de-sac to the other property line on the other side.
Okay.
And then there's the downhill run, which of course, heavy storms with rain fills up the cul-de-sac. And there's a French drain that's been put in there and it's dished. And that's how it absorbs water. It's kind of like our storm sewer system. It's about the best you can do in the situation we got to deal with. And that works relatively well until it rains too much. But if there's just tons of parking on there, you can imagine if you parked on your lawn all the time, there's no grass growing. And the soil gets compacted and it tends to rather run off than absorb in, and it can cause some problems to 3 properties. Ours, our next door neighbor's got a retaining wall that's tipped over a couple of times because of stormwater runoff. And then the vacant lot has had ruts that deep from water overtopping Nottingham Court and running down their gravel driveway. And some people say, oh, I shouldn't have a gravel driveway. Well, yeah, it's a vacant lot. They're thinking of building a house there in the near future, I guess. And he asked me one day, you know, of a contractor, it'd be good to talk to, and I didn't. And our neighbors on the other side are putting in a garage. So parking is gonna be a little interesting, because where they have been parking their 3 or 4 cars when the whole family shows up, there'll be a garage on half of that, and so I don't know where they're gonna park boat trailers and cars themselves. So you can imagine that things start getting pretty congested there. And if it's just family and friends, Justin can say, do this, don't do that, pick up this, you know. But if it's coming and going strangers from everywhere that don't know much about the area, you know, we don't wanna have to be the policeman saying, could you cut the noise at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, you know? Or could you move your vehicle so we can get out and that sort of thing. So, I don't know when a short-term license for rental is necessary when it's just friends and family. So I didn't know if it was
We
going to
do
be.
intend to charge, like, even friends and family to, like, stay, so that's where when we looked at it, we wanted to make sure we were under the proper guidance. So
See, and I think there's some of that happening at other residents in the area, that you have friends that say, hey, we'd like to come out there for a week.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sure.
We'll give you $1,000 to stay there for the week, you know, and I don't think they have a short-term rental, it's just friends dealing with friends kind of thing, you know.
So the difference would be friends saying, oh, can I come stay at your place? Versus you're gonna post on Airbnb and Vrbo.
You have a relationship with them. VRBO, never saw them in your life before, you don't know what their background is, they show up, they trash Justin's place, leave
Yeah.
stuff all over the lot, and then they're gone. And it's like, we haven't had to deal with that before in our cul-de-sac. So now you're getting all kinds of people showing up and driving around and looking, and should we or shouldn't we? And we just got enough traffic in that little cul-de-sac already, is all I'm saying. And so that's all I have to say as far as the statement pretty much covers all the other stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had some questions.
Sure.
So-
That is a nice driveway.
I do have some questions, Jason, about your
Sure.
It looks like, the maximum staff would, recommend for your driveway, which is very nice, by the way. Occupancy of 4, so you could have a maximum of 2
Two,
parked
yep.
on there. So is it long enough then, let's say somebody did come with a car or 2 cars, but let's say somebody did come with a boat or ATV trailer, is that long enough for an
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I still on? Yeah, yeah, they were able to pull in with their car
So it
and
wouldn't
have,
have to go, cause that is one of the smaller, I know that area. So
Yeah.
that is one of the smaller, originally developed cul-de-sacs
Yep.
with smaller pie-shaped lots that.
we
it's
designed the
pretty
driveway to
dense.
be able to pull 2 cars up right up along the house,
Okay.
which would leave almost, I would imagine, yeah,
So it
each one could
addresses
have a
their
trailer.
concern that they're not gonna be parking on the cul-de-sac. So
Yeah.
that the car can pull in and a trailer can pull in with a boat and
Yeah,
there's 2 okay,
yeah, absolutely, yep.
thank you.
And as a fellow lake owner, like, what I can say to Norbert is, like, I get it, you know, like, I understand, and we are screening, if we do go off from our direct, influence of people we know, we're gonna be very specific on who can stay. We did $125,000 renovations into this, and it's a baby of ours, so, we wanna make sure that it stays that way. And, yeah, so, I promise we won't just have people coming and going. I swear, I promise.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you still pay room tax even if it's friends and family if you're charging.
Yeah, see, Jamie was hitting me up for the room tax, so I needed to. I knew I needed. Yeah, I gotta pay the tax.
That, the vacant lot that was referred to,
Yep.
and I think as you're coming in, it's the one that's on the right-hand side.
Yes.
There were trailers
Yeah.
and things. It, is that like a community thing where everyone just parks their trailer, or how?
You know,
where did
I
all
don't,
this
I don't know, Norbert,
come
I know
from?
you know,
I
yeah.
can tell you all about that.
Well, we'll see.
The people that owned it, both, I think both of them are deceased now, then their son got ownership. He died of a heart attack about 3 years ago. I think it's his wife now that still has ownership. And they own 2 lots. One with the little house with no garage and the brick paver driveway, and then where all the trailers are parked are their secondary lot. And I don't know if they're tied together, I've never looked into that, I don't know, maybe they're 2 separates. But those trailers have been parked there for years.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been used.
Okay, I just was wondering if that was an agreed upon spot that everybody was just parking all their trailers.
Yeah.
Because it sure looked like it was a trailer
Yep.
parking lot.
And the neighbor across the cul-de-sac has got their toy trailer parked over there now too. I think they might have made some arrangements where they
Okay.
could do that.
Okay.
Because if they park their toy trailer in their single car driveway, then there's no place to park cars.
Gotcha.
All right,
Cul-de-sac comes into being used as parking.
thank you.
Any other questions, or Justin? Okay, thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you.
7H, consideration of the issuance of conditional use permit for the following purpose: a short-term rental at the property located at 340 Deepwater Trail, owned by April and Kurt Nelson, also described as lots 122 to 123 of Quiet Waters addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northwest 1/4, northeast 1/4, section 18, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-3897. Emily?
Letters were sent to 9 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Staff recommends a maximum occupancy of 8, maximum vehicles of 4 to be parked on hard surfaces, not on the lawn or grass at the property. Is Kurt's here?
Curtis here.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is evening. It almost is evening.
Do you just want to fill us in then, when you're done signing in, as to what your hopes and plans are?
Sure. My name is Kurt Nelson. I've owned Deepwater since, I think it was 2013 or 2012 we bought in the fall. This is my first year that we're gonna try to offer it up as a short-term rental. As everybody knows, a lot of things are going up in price. This is our second home, so this is our vacation home. We live down in Oak Creek primarily, now we're up here for our vacations with our families. So what I'm looking to do is probably offset a little bit of the cost, and I still come up with my family and my friends come up, and so we're still gonna use it as a vacation place for us as well. But I'm not looking for it's just an opportunity is what we're looking at for this year.
Okay.
And they do have a property manager? Okay.
Everybody that comes will have it.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it that they couldn't come before us if they didn't have one? Is that my understanding?
That's part of our checklist now, so we're good.
Okay. I have a question on that later.
Okay, any questions? I'm sorry,
No, no
Oh.
questions.
for Mr. Nelson? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
7I, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: a short-term rental at the property located at 478 St. Andrews Trail, owned by Danita and Donald Carlson, also described as Lot 106 to 107 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 20, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2796. Emily?
Letters were sent to 14 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Staff recommends a maximum occupancy of 6, maximum vehicles of 3 to be parked on hard surfaces, not on the lawn or grass at the property. And Don and Danita?
Danita is.
Danita is here.
Hi, I'm Danita Carlson, and I am the owner of the property, and I'm also the property manager. I live at 399 Setting Sun Trail, right here in Rome, and we did buy the property to use solely as a short-term rental.
Is this your third property that you've done? Like,
Second.
I was gonna say, you look familiar, like you had another, you were been here before.
I'm property manager for a couple other
Okay.
rentals in Rome, but this is the second rental that we've bought, my husband and I, for a short-term rental.
Have you had any issues with the other short-term rental or rentals at all?
No
Following the
issues.
guidelines from Rome or anything?
No, I haven't had any issues.
Excellent. Any questions for Mrs. Carlson? Okay, well then, we'll see in a bit. Thank you. 7J, amendment to conditional use permit for the short-term rental of the property located at 487 Duffers Trail, owned by Kevin and Laura Dick, also described as Lot 35 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, southeast 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 20, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2725. This is for adjusting the maximum allowed occupancy. Emily?
Letters were sent to 10 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. This updated conditional use permit is requesting an increase of maximum occupancy from 9, and the calculated occupancy would be 15.
What about cars? I'm sure that was on the other condition, but
vehicles were previously at 5, they would remain at 5. You do have in your packet, just a statement from Dan Hansen that the work was completed, but there wasn't additional work done on the driveway area.
so it's 5 vehicles.
But it says on here 7.
Yeah.
It says on here 7.
5 on mine, hold on, I have his other conditional use.
All vehicles shall be 7.
Oh,
See,
it was
the,
7.
Findings of fact.
Hold on, I have a copy of this. It's 5. It should have been, that's just a typo, it should be 5, and we
Yep.
can correct that.
What about the maximum occupancy?
It'll still say 15.
But vehicles is 5.
Yep, but, yep.
I have a copy of his most recent license also that indicates 5.
And Kevin?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm assuming maybe you added a egress window or something to the basement to allow for the additional occupancy?
Yep, so, when Mark Kane came out, he was really clear about what we needed for an egress window. We just wanted to put some bedrooms in the basement, excuse me, 1 bedroom, a couple beds. So even though it's 15, we don't have any intention of going anywhere near that. I certainly don't with 7 cars, or 5 even. So it's, we've been here for about a year now doing short-term rental and spending time with family up here. It's mostly short-term rental. We probably get up 4 or 5 times a year. And it's been good. It's been a good experience for us, I think, overall. We really like our neighbors, and we try and be thoughtful about kind of who we rent to. And we try and kind of price a little bit higher to make sure we kind of get the clientele that we want. So all this really does is let us put bedrooms in the basement, or excuse me, beds. So we have 2 bunk beds, and we kind of throw our kids down here when we come, or our friends come up. So not expecting too many changes. We'll keep it at 12, even if it's 15. We just don't, the house really couldn't hold more than that. And again, just being thoughtful of the neighbors, because we do have a good relationship with them, we want to keep it. So I think at 15, I might turn into a party house or something. So we'll keep it at 12 and keep children's bunk beds in the basement to keep too many adults from piling in, so.
So by your statement, I would assume then that you have not had any neighbor issues or anyone has complained to you about?
We had one guest that we won't rent to again. But again, we have a good relationship with really the neighbor to the left side of the house there, who's full-time. And he and I have kind of an agreement that if there's an issue, he'll reach out to me first. I mean, he certainly can use the hotline, and he knows I'd support him doing that. But we just, a good example, right, a fire pit. We get asked for a fire pit a lot, and it's just not conducive for that site. I think it'd be really loud and right on the golf course, so we've kind of held off on things like that. So we just try and be thoughtful. And again, we kind of rent to mostly people here to golf, and they, respect the golf course because of that. I think some of the more secluded lots, you have the opportunity for a hot tub and for a, fire pit. It's not how we've structured our lot. And we view it as, you know, short-term rental's been a way for us to achieve our goal of having a house up here that we can eventually move into permanently once we're done with the kids' stuff. And so, we treat it like it's our house. And so because we view it as our retirement home, basically, we try and, you know, be thoughtful of it that way. So the egress window, it took 9 months to find a contractor because everybody's so busy up here. So we did that in December, and they were great. But now that it's done, we just thought we'd check that box and get the occupancy where it should be.
So would you be agreeable with regard to the posting of rules with regard to trespass on the golf course and?
Yeah, we haven't had an issue. I have a camera on the, kind of at the corner of the lot, just mostly to keep an eye on
Good
things
to
when we're not
know.
there. It's disclosed and all the stuff.
Oh,
We try and
okay.
let everybody know. If they're uncomfortable, we'll deal with it. But again, I think that is a little bit of a deterrent because it's right kind of at the property line with the golf course. And so every once in a while we get some golf carts coming in, but mostly it's been good.
I have some questions,
Sure,
Mr. Chair.
please.
Okay, so I don't know if you wrote this wrong or if this is a mistype, but in his letter to us, it does say we are currently approved for 9 occupants and believe that this should increase to 13, and we have on our sheet maximum occupancy shall be 15.
They're both correct. He requested 13 and the calculation was 15.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification.
I knew there'd be a question on that.
That's just your math one, Mom.
Thank you very much. That answers that.
Anything else, Lori?
The only other question I have is actually a question for us. I know at one time we had, well, actually on his drawing here, this unfinished space that you have, are these stairs, this must be a tri-level then, that these are stairs
No,
that
it's
go down?
it's a poor drawing, I apologize. So kind of underneath the stairs. So the stairs are, there's a landing in the middle.
I
so
see.
it comes down, and,
Okay.
it's just half the basement's unfinished.
So when you have occupants in here, during a short-term rental period, would this be locked that they can't use this
So
space?
I wanted to lock it, but unfortunately I can't because that's where the electrical box is located, so in case there was a fire or something, right?
I
we want-
see.
That was, you know, working with Mark Kane on that. So we leave it unlocked, and then what I've done is just put, like a metal shed in there that I can lock, put supplies in and things I wouldn't
I
want,
see.
more of our personal items. But yeah, I'd love to lock it if I could, I just,
So but they can't, they don't use this space, they can't in any way
I mean,
let
it's
other
a
people?
concrete floor, I guess, if they wanted to
Okay.
sleep on it, I can't
All
stop
right.
them, but,
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else?
cool, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8 is to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't ask.
His house 3 doors down from me, it's a beautiful home. But what I'm worried about is, everybody that lives on that end of the street knows what happened when the B&B went in. There's a B&B right around the corner, they built a B&B, then they built another B&B right next to it. So they got 2 of them there. There might be 25, 30, 40, 50 people there sometimes, and they're screaming, they're loud. You can hear them at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, making all kinds of noises and stuff. Fireworks going off. It may have been corrected a little bit here and there, but it's still the same thing. So when we increase the occupancy, we're increasing parking, people, all those kind of things too. I'm talking about the permanent residents down on that end of the street. So I'm just saying, and first of all, you're not allowed to have a business out of your home in the Arrowhead. Isn't a B&B a business? Anytime, according to the definition of business, any enterprise that makes money is considered a business? No, so I'm just saying, I don't know if y'all have had a lot of complaints about the B&B around the corner, but if we're gonna have short-term rentals, there's got to be some real laws or restrictions put down as far as noise level and amount of people in these rentals. If your rental has 5 bedrooms, you should be able to have 10 people. If it's got 3 bedrooms, you can't put 10 people in 3 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Y'all talking about moving it up to 13 people, 15 people. You know, there's not has anybody been down the street? I mean, we have people that park in our street. We got construction going on across the one area of our street. So I'm just saying, is there something we can do about, I know we have a hotline and all that things now, but about amount of people and amount of parking? I mean, if you have 15 people in 2 cars, there's no problem. But if you have 15 people and each person drove a car, you got a big problem.
So that's what
Yeah,
our,
go ahead.
we have the maximum of 5 cars.
Yeah.
It needs to be on the property. They cannot be on the road at all. The maximum of 15 people.
So you have to be able to put 5 properties on the, 5 cars on the property,
Yes.
right?
Yep, not in
Does
the
that
road.
include, but does that mean in the driveway, or that just means anywhere on the property?
On the driveway.
On
Hard
the-
surface.
5
Hard
cars
surface.
in the driveway.
So if
Okay.
it's for some reason a gravel yard, I
Well,
guess.
and the reason I'm saying is because we got a new home just got built, and another one's probably gonna go in, so it's gonna be a lot of construction going back and forth, and if you could add a lot of more people doing rentals in that particular area, then we're gonna have a lot of congestion. And as a permanent resident, we see more of it than somebody who just temporarily comes in and out, so.
Yep.
You know, it would help us a lot if, when you see somebody violating something, that you do call that
Well, we've
hotline.
done that for the B&B down there, and it doesn't get done. I mean, you know, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you tell they've been drinking, and they're screaming and hollering at each other, and who wants to get louder than the next guy, and all that kind of stuff. And then fireworks will go off or something. It's like, we gotta shut this down at least at 12 o'clock, midnight or something.
Yep. If you call the hotline, we do run like a 3-strike share out. Their license will be revoked.
But let's, the business that you're talking about, that is business zoning, it's Eagles Nest,
It's
which
not
was,
an
it
Oh,
is
I
not
see.
an Airbnb, because it's business zoning.
Oh.
So they don't have the same occupancy or vehicle number assigned, cause it is
Ah, okay.
different zoning. So, so if you contacted the hotline in that case, they wouldn't have a 24-hour number,
Right.
because that's handled differently through the town.
See,
But you,
there it is.
but still, fireworks that leave the ground,
Right.
that's a safety issue,
Well,
that
then
goes
they're
right
just-
to the
Then they're
PD.
building another beautiful home right next to that B&B, back in the woods there, and, you know, so eventually they may be up here standing in this spot, so.
Sir, I would
I got nothing
also,
against you, you got a beautiful home over there, but.
I would also encourage you to call our PD if you're having that much problem, because they are very responsive to that as well.
Okay.
So, and they can help you if you're having those kind of issues late at night, because we do have nuisance ordinances that they can enforce, and they will write tickets.
Right, okay, thank you.
Right? Thank you.
Would you just mind, sir, just signing the paper up there with your name and address, please? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak regarding this amended conditional use permit? Okay, now we'll move on to item number 8, to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Jeff? Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Paul, to close the public hearing. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next section is to discuss some possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion of possible action regarding the meeting minutes from Tuesday, April 11th, 2023.
I personally think those minutes were extraordinary. They were very concise, and thank you.
Very good, Emily.
It's between me and Linda, so team effort.
Great job.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Diana, second by Lori to approve the minutes from April 11th. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10, discussion and possible recommendation to the town board. Consideration of the proposed comprehensive plan map 9 amendment from rural residence to agriculture and zoning amendment from R4 rural residence district to A2 secondary agricultural district relating to the property located at 780 Animal Lane owned by Yvonne and Michael Harris, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 5582, located in Section 13, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-751-10, total area 40.201 acres.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the town board, the proposed comprehensive plan map amendment from rural residence to agricultural and zoning map amendment from R4 to A2.
Jeff's made the motion to approve this recommendation to the town board. Is there a second? Okay, I'll call the question again. Is there a second to this, motion?
Was that the one that we were gonna try to change it?
Well, I mean, I think we need a second.
For the fence?
Yeah, we need a second for the discussion.
We do.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. Motion and second been made for discussion, commissioners?
I don't disagree with what anybody said about the spot zoning. I just think we need to look at it an individual case-by-case basis. And the security on this and the safety on this, in my mind, justifies the zoning change to allow that fence.
And I disagree with you, that can be done with a variance. And you're creating spot zoning, and if we do it once, we're setting a precedence, Jeff.
We're not setting a precedence, we're looking at individual applications and making a judgment call on this individual application.
Well, in looking at the difference between an R4 zoning and an A2 zoning, in my opinion, there's substantial difference between those zonings. And you've got R4 zoning all around this parcel. And I don't believe it's to the neighborhood or the general philosophy of our comprehensive plan that they wanted to plunk an A2 in the middle of all this R4. The R4 surrounding it already has single-family homes on it. So you're putting an entirely different zoning thing in the middle of an R4.
You're putting egg right in the middle of R4, you can double your animal units, you're going from like 20 ducks to 40 ducks, you're going from 2 cows to 4 cows, you're going from, you have to think about what you're doing to a residential neighborhood over a fence.
Well, in an R4, they can have a hobby farm, but it has to be a 10-acre minimum.
Right.
So,
9-acre minimum logistics, but yes.
it's 9?
Yep.
Oh, I just read the ordinance this
She-
morning.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
you're making a substantial jump in what people can do there.
In
and-
addition, I'm sorry.
I know I'm interrupting you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
In addition, you're changing the possible change to housing in an A2 as opposed to an R4. You're looking at multifamilies, duplexes. People didn't, in A2, you got the R2, anything that's allowed or permitted in an R2.
So there's already a house, so they can't add more houses.
To where?
That parcel.
Can they subdivide it though?
They can
As A2, they can subdivide it into 10-acre
Right,
parcels.
they can subdivide into 10 acres.
Parcels, and then you're talking
In
different
R4
types of housing.
R4, you'd be able to subdivide into 5-acre parcels.
Unless it's a hobby farm,
R4
then
you
it's
can't.
9 acres.
R4 is a 35-acre minimum, is it not?
No,
But
that's
what about
R5.
egg?
Oh, 5, excuse me.
R4 is what, 15?
R4 is 5.
Oh,
5.
okay.
We're talking about egg.
Changing the zoning to A2.
Right.
Right.
And A2, I believe permitted is R2, and conditional is R3, whereas R4,
Oh, I see what you
the
mean. with
permitted is
R2.
R1.
So with the R2 and the R3, there's a house there, so unless they subdivide, and.
Bingo.
But where are they gonna
That's what the
subdivide?
issue is.
Because with the, regulations for lot design, I mean, you're gonna get 2 parcels maybe, cause you can't have a
But why
lot without
should
road.
why should we even have that option available to anyone? It's an R4.
Our
You know-
A2 would also allow it, like you can still subdivide. I'm confused, if you can elaborate.
A2 has different housing availability to it as opposed to R4.
And we,
So you're talking single-family homes on a subdivision or a 5-acre parcel for R4, single-family home. On A2, you have to have a minimum of a 10-acre.
So unless you're saying, like hobby farm and animals, you can have 40 chickens on that property.
I'm
right
talking
now.
about the
Yeah.
different kinds of housing that would be available between an A2 and an R4.
So
You can't have
there's
a.
already a house, and with subdividing, it's, the lot design is gonna be very, like, they can't build a subdivision there. it wouldn't work.
We're not talking a subdivision, we're talking subdividing the lots though, and what we're saying is that we're doing this for a fence. It seems to me that a variance is better for a fence than changing the zoning and making it spot zoning, correct, Jerry?
Correct.
Thank
And
you, Jerry.
I see both ways 100%. I just, the way you wouldn't be able to subdivide the property to create properties for more houses or multifamily or whatever that way. And multifamily, they need to come back for a conditional use permit. As the property is right now, there would be no housing allowed to be built because it's one parcel and there's already a house there.
So when you said, like, when you told us before that, 780, is that 780 or seven, what were the addresses?
780?
780
And 758 is.
Oh yeah, 780,
primarily
758.
780
Now,
and
and you
750.
said it's just one big parcel.
Yep,
And because there's that single family home on there, they can't do anything with it.
correct.
They can't put any more houses on that whole
Correct.
big parcel.
Yep.
In the future, can they undivide that parcel so that we get back to the two different parcels and then be able to subdivide, or?
They can, with the placement of the mobile tower and the house, they can maybe split it in half and allow road frontage. I don't see much beyond that because like you can't have a flag lot, you need to have a specific road frontage. It's actually greater for A2. I believe it's greater for A2. I thought it was 250.
It's
Maybe I'm not.
250 for R4, I think, and, I have that, and 200 for.
It's 200 feet in A2.
A2.
Yep, 200 feet in A2.
So what's in
less.
R4?
It's two.
It's less for A2 and it's more for
It's
R4.
more for R4. And I can't find that paper now that I need it.
Well, you got the numbers right though, but
R4 would require 250 minimum frontage,
you
so
have the right numbers.
Yep.
could it be potential to divide it in half again? Yeah.
Half, yeah. But they
But if
could
we
maybe
left it
add
at-
another house on that other parcel then.
But if we left it at R4 and they got a variance, be a Board of Appeals, what's the
And go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry, sir.
I was just gonna say the three things that they would have to consider didn't seem to be for a variance, the three things that Nick had brought forward that the Board of Appeals would have to consider didn't seem like it would even apply to what, they're proposing for this site. You know, to prevent it from, the variance from being, approved.
Approved, correct. And they could still have these, recommended conditions about,
The only thing that he did point out was that without this fence, and it's usual and customary to have the security fence, it would be difficult for him or the company to get additional carriers, or even to have Verizon come in and do the job to begin with. So by changing the zoning, or not changing the zoning, we probably, in what I perceived, we would not get a cell tower, is how I perceived the comment that he had made.
If they went through a variance and left it at R4 and went through a variance, they could have a 10-foot fence.
right,
A 10-foot fence, but I'm
that's what he said. He said he could have we could variance, get a variance, have a 10-foot fence, they could place the tower.
Right.
We're all set.
Would that suffice for not having the barbed wire though?
Yes, he
Yes.
said that would be fine, as
Okay.
long as they could have the 10-foot fence.
10-foot security fence.
Okay.
Yep.
So looking at the test for a variance, the only thing that I would, because it's not up to the Board of Appeals, it's up to this 3-factor test that it would need to pass. So, let's see.
The 3-factor test was on the law change, right? That Nick,
No, that wasn't for variance, no. Mhm.
So with the use variance, an unnecessary hardship shall be defined as a condition that without granting a variance would render the property without any reasonable or feasible use, or the hardship must be based on a physical limitation unique to the property. So that's just the part where it might not pass the variance test.
But it says or, which means it doesn't have to be.
It needs to
all.
be all.
Could be all three, yeah.
It needs to meet all, or it cannot pass.
But Nick didn't seem that concerned about it though, did he?
I disagree with that categorization, because what he said was that changing the zoning was the path recommended by staff, and that was the path that they.
There's no recommendation from staff on that at all. I didn't see a recommendation from staff.
Well, this process is the staff's recommendation to change the zoning, right?
So the reason it's recommended zoning is for the fence, and we thought this would be the best route to take. Nick and I probably spent 3 or 4 hours going over these two cases with the rezone and the other tower. And this is what we found to be probably the best case, and it keeps the power in the hands of the Plan Commission without referring it to Board of Appeals, where it would need to pass a 3-factor test to might be able to have this fence. Otherwise, then it's out of the hands of the Plan Commission. So this is the way to keep it here and place those conditions to ensure that we have all the things needed for the health and safety aspect of it, which the security fence is part of. I totally see the spot zoning at the A2.
Yeah.
I see both ways 100%. This is the route that we found would be probably the most, the best route.
And I did ask Emily a question earlier today prior to the meeting. I asked, could we just zone around where the tower is, and that didn't work either, so. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that would be, doesn't work, so it's
Yeah.
just.
If they subdivided the land before coming here and it was just a parcel,
Around the tower,
then,
yeah, that would.
then it would be a non-issue. But, cause then they could zone just that part or.
Around the tower.
Yeah.
That would make a funny shaped lot though.
It wouldn't be too bad with how large the 40 acres is.
So, just one more thing is you don't think it will pass the 3 test
I don't,
unanimously?
it's hard to tell
Even a
based
but-for
on
test?
how Board of Appeals
Like a but-for.
views the 3-factor test, if it's a hardship, if it's not a hardship. It passes the 2 other factors of it's not self-created, and Jamie, can you go back?
Wouldn't the safety issue be a hardship?
Yes.
Well,
That's-
Yes.
the safety issue, I like using language straight from code. So the hardship is not self-created, so I see that being, it could be self-created because this tower doesn't need to go here, doesn't need a security fence. It probably should for the health and safety of the community. The variance is not contrary to public interest, passes that easy peasy. But there's factors where it might not pass, and that's for the Board of Appeals to determine.
And then if it doesn't pass, what happens, just so,
Then they don't get the fence, and then maybe the tower doesn't go in.
and it doesn't come back here, we can't redo it?
I guess they could decide to come back.
But
It
there
would-
isn't enough, that it wouldn't
We-
get appealed back to here, right? It wouldn't,
Yeah.
it wouldn't without being requested again, just naturally come back. Cause Board of Appeals is meant to be a balance if someone would disagree with Emily or with the Plan Commission.
Let me ask this question, if we would deny it tonight, how quickly would it go to Board Appeals and then would it come back?
It's a minimum 30-day notice, plus it takes, they don't meet regularly, so it might take 2 weeks to determine a date with the board. So my guess is at least, like, minimum a month and a half out.
Can I ask a question, or is it, I can't speak anymore?
No, it's just a discussion amongst ourselves, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Any other discussion?
I do have a question.
Okay.
If they tear down this single-family home on this now A2 zone parcel, what could they put in its place?
A single-family home or a duplex or a manufactured home. It'd be R2.
And also, 2 camping units, cause it's A3, it's not residential anymore, so that would not be limited to 1 camping unit. So now there could be 2 camping units on the property,
Did you change that though? Or is that just for R2?
For-
just residential.
That's residential.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be multifamily housing.
If it comes back to plan commission.
We couldn't, you know,
The other thing about this piece of property is that it's near the 14-Mile Creek watershed. It's in the wetlands, it's in the forests, I mean, it's in the woods, it's in the wetlands, so this tower is being sited in an area that, you know, it could be a lot of different things, and it's just rezoning it Ag 2 just brings up other questions, so it's I wanna cell tower as much as the next person. Our service here is spotty, so I don't wanna turn down a cell tower, like Jerry said earlier. Well, we want a cell tower, yeah, we do, but there's land issues here and it's besides just spot zoning, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
and it's contrary to the comprehensive plan.
Thank
It has
you.
been worked on
Very hard.
very hard by many people.
By Mike. Or Chair, I'm sorry, Chair.
It's okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then I'm gonna call the question. Motion's been made to recommend to the town board approval of the comprehensive plan map amendment and the zoning amendment. Was a motion by Jeff, seconded by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 3-2, the motion, or the, recommendation of the town board is denied. Item number 11, discussion of possible action to the town board, consideration issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct a communication tower on the property located at 780 Animal Lane, owned by Yvonne and Michael Harris, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 5582, located in Section 13, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-751-10, total area 40.201 acres. I'm assuming that, being that we had a no vote on the first one, does this even have to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this
Okay.
would be a motion to approve, cause we can't say no to the mobile tower.
I see, okay.
So, I suggest looking at the list of recommended conditions, it'll be a motion to approve with, consider the conditions in front of you. We're not gonna be signing a findings of fact tonight, because we're gonna develop a document that more clearly states these conditions in a formal matter, to be signed and agreed upon by, the owners, or I guess the
Okay.
company. Yeah, I guess if you have any questions.
You can approve the tower to be placed there. They're just conditions that have to be addressed before they can actually construct it,
Yep,
such as the fence.
yes.
Yeah,
like
one of the
fence,
conditions
lighting.
is 10-foot fence.
So that'd be a suggested condition, doesn't need to be there, and you guys can decide. And that was based off an approval of if the rezone was approved. So,
Well, and, let's do motion second, and we discuss it.
Okay, do you wanna just make the motion?
I will make the motion to approve the conditional use permit for the construction of a communications tower on the property at 780 Animal Lane, and to include all of the recommended conditions in the approval.
All of them?
Yes.
so, cause you
No.
can't recommend,
No, but if, we need a second.
yeah.
I'll second.
My thought was, we keep the condition in here, if a variance is the solution, then we still have this condition in here.
So we can't recommend, or we can't place a condition that's not consistent with the zoning. So that condition cannot be in there.
Well, it can be modified, though. It could say that he must obtain a fence permit for a
fence-
height of 10 feet.
He cannot, because the zoning does not allow for a 10-foot fence. it allows for a 6-foot fence. That's why that A2
what
is in
this-
there. And that's why the recommendation condition is based off of that rezone, because the 6-foot is, or the 10-foot is not allowed in residential.
Even with the variance.
It is with the variance, but we
Well,
cannot,
then,
that's
okay.
out of our hands here.
Okay,
Yep.
so then without the fencing, and then they would have to go and get a variance for their 10-foot fence.
They would not have to. That'd be up to them.
Oh, whether they get a fence or not.
But, wait a
Yep.
minute, wait.
Okay.
He said he could build it with a 6-foot fence, did he not? Oh, no, Verizon requires a 10-foot fence, that's right.
I think he said it's common practice to have that security fence with a 10-foot or barbed wire for the health, like the safety aspect of
I
it.
asked that question and he said they would want that.
Yeah, they would
He
want
was
that.
pretty firm about that.
Yeah, it was like they were
10-foot
pulling
with
out.
Or 6-foot with barbed wire.
No, 10 foot.
10.
With barbed wire. He was really adamant about that.
So
Then just take the fence
I'm
off of it.
modifying my motion to remove the 10-foot fence condition and change it to 6 foot.
Who was the second?
Diana,
I second your change.
okay. So the motion's been made and seconded to amend, to approve this communication tower and approve change the conditions from a 10-foot fence to a 6-foot fence. Am I stating that correctly?
Yes.
I believe that would cover, can we say minimum 6-foot fence? So I think that would leave the door open for that
Yes.
variance,
Yes,
Right, right.
good idea.
cause
Al.
then it's within
Yes,
our
that-
zoning and then.
All right,
keep
then
that
that
door
is,
open.
that is the change that I intended to make. How about that?
Okay, so to restate the motion and the
Sure.
amended motion, it's to recommend to construct a communication tower with a condition of instead of the 10-foot fence, it's a minimum of 6-foot height fence. Did I state that correctly?
Yeah,
Yes,
all
sir.
these conditions with that one of the fence, right?
Yes.
Diana, you agree to that?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, then hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 12, discussion of possible action to the town board. Consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct a communication tower on the property located at 1520 Alpine Drive, owned by STFC Properties LLC, also described as part of the southeast 1/4, northeast 1/4 of Lot 6 of CSM 4096, located in Section 11, Town 20 North, Range 5 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-139, total area 4.650 acres.
Just clarification, discussion possible action, not to town board.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I think we made a error last vote. We did not include the findings of fact. There was findings of fact on that one, wasn't there?
So
With the
it'd be,
conditions.
yeah, I guess findings of fact,
I thought we weren't doing findings of fact because we're sending.
it'll be a write-up with these conditions. I think we're okay with that motion. I wish we had our,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nick would've been in.
but findings of fact would adopt
The conditions?
the conditions.
Or
I think, because we covered the recommended conditions.
we said that they would be sent to, the recommended conditions will be sent to the property owners for agreement. So, and I think that was, you stated that with the motion, that they will be sent to be signed off on.
Yes.
Because they're not being signed on tonight, so.
Right,
There were no findings, oh, wait a minute.
but my question is, since my motion did not include the findings of fact, do we need to go back?
I don't believe
And
so.
fix
'cause
that.
Your motion included all of the recommended conditions that will need to be signed off by the property owner.
Okay,
So I think this motion also would say that you wanna include all of the recommended conditions that would additionally, would have to be signed off by the property owner.
okay, thank you.
Well, then we're back on number 12.
Sorry, Mr.
That's
Chairman.
okay, no problem. Discussion of possible action, consideration issuance of the conditional use permit for the communication tower at 1520 Alpine Drive.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to construct a communication tower at 1520 Alpine Drive, and to include the findings of fact and all recommended conditions.
Yes, and this one can be 10 foot in height because it's not R4.
Yeah, this is B1. Okay.
Did the,
But
Was it
we
seconded?
need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Paul. For discussion, go ahead.
on the drawings for the fence that were provided, wasn't it 6 foot? With the 3 things of barbed wire on top?
Let's pull it up. It is 6 foot, yeah,
So
with
it-
barbed wire. Barbed wire is not allowed in residential.
And this one's B1.
Well, we're,
Sorry, correct.
yeah,
Barbed
this
wire
is
is still
B1.
not allowed.
It's still not allowed in in the B1?
I don't believe so. Or,
What about the
I thought a security fence was allowed.
storage buildings like
oh,
over on
actually,
14th Avenue and stuff?
you're right, barbed wire is allowed, but we can, I think the recommendation is, without the barbed wire in. I think that's mostly aesthetic and, not aesthetic reasons, I forget Nick's exact phrasing, but to steer clear of barbed wire was in best interests of town, something
But
along
it
those
is
lines.
still allowed though at this site.
Still allowed.
But the recommendations, as the motion is, says without barbed wire, just so. If you're approving it with the recommended conditions, it says with the fence in
10
height without barbed
Barbed
wire.
wire.
Give me 1 second, barbed wire needs to be at least 8 foot above grade, so
10-foot fence would be okay.
10 foot fence would be okay, or it needs to be at least 8 feet plus barbed wire.
Like the motion said, and on our sheet, it's 10 feet in height without barbed wire.
So, is this recommendation saying that the fence is 10 feet without the barbed wire, but if you add the barbed wire, it's 12 feet?
Yes.
And that's okay?
No, because we're saying with no barbed wire, so it would just be a 10-foot fence.
Okay, what if you did a 6 foot with 3 things of barbed wire?
So we cannot do 6 foot plus barbed wire because security fences, it says barbed wire is at least 8 feet above grade.
So 8 feet with barbed wire would be 10 feet.
I have no idea how high barbed wire goes, but I'm sure it'd be around that.
So he would then be able to do an 8-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire?
No, because it says no barbed wire.
Well, it says 10
But we
feet
can amend those
without.
conditions,
Yeah.
can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can change that.
Yeah. I mean, that's currently where we stand is 10 foot with no barbed wire.
The motion and the second on the floor.
That's
Yeah,
right, so
yes.
the motion would have to be amended.
I mean, that's sort of what the stage is for, right? We discuss this. I mean, do we need to include barbed wire into that?
Yes, I believe so.
I mean, it's in the renderings.
It is. He's got the rendering showing 3 strands of barbed wire.
Yeah.
But then we have the conditions that are part of the
Right, so we would just
motion.
amend the.
We'd have to amend the conditions
Right.
Yep.
to allow, well, it's Jeff's motion.
Yeah, I will. But these drawings are, God, I need to go get glasses.
Would you like to make a thing?
Please.
I've got one on my phone.
But I'm questioning the height of the fence in the drawing. Is it, can somebody tell me the height of the fence in the drawing?
Know the height of the fence on the.
6.
Oh, 6 plus 1.
Yeah.
It'd be 7 feet total, but we would not be able to allow this because barbed wire needs to be at least 8. So if it's 8 plus barbed wire, it'd be 9.
Okay.
Okay,
Then I'm gonna modify my motion to change the fencing aspect of it to say 10 foot in height with barbed wire.
including the barbed wire.
That's actually not what I said.
I know.
Is there a reason that you have to keep it at 10 feet though?
gotta be a minimum
It's
of
gotta be
8.
a minimum of 8.
Right, so 10 foot with barbed wire is fine, right?
I believe so. So, security fences, the fence, including gates, shall not exceed 10 feet in height. They can include up to 4 strands of barbed wire at the top of the fence. So that,
So that's,
I believe that
fine.
means it can be 10 feet
With the
plus
barbed
barbed
wire.
wire.
yeah, okay.
So is that your amendment to the conditions then?
Yes, to make it a 10-foot fence with barbed wire.
And Paul, do you wanna,
Yep, I'll agree to it second.
okay? So, the motion is on the floor by Jeff and Paul to approve the communication tower with the condition change of fencing of 10 foot in height with barbed wire.
Good.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Number 13, discussion of possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of a preliminary plat, Timberline Park, to be located at the property owned by the town of Rome, described as follows. Parcel numbers 030-654 and 030-656-5. All parcels also described as part of Section 8, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. Total acres, 73.602.
I'll make the motion that we recommend to the town board the consideration of a preliminary plat map for Timberline Park to be located at the property owned by Town of Rome, described as follows, parcel numbers. Do you want me to read all of this, Mr. Chair?
I believe they've been read twice already, so I think
Okay.
you're safe.
With, do I need to read?
I think we'll just go with Lori's, making a motion to recommend to the town board consideration of the preliminary plot of Timberline Park.
I do want to add, Mr. Chair, that we do have verification that the storm basin, the filtration basin, verification, from, is included, is no longer needed, is included.
From the
From the engineer is included, and that the, did we wanna, and the findings of fact, thank you, Jeff. We're getting a little tired here, I guess.
We're all punch drunk.
And, as well as, did we wanna include our bike trails? I wanna ask for-
I mean, make your motion, let's get a second, we can
All
talk
right,
about it.
including the bike trails,
Walking trails.
and, bike walking trails as on the Rome Town Center map. Design. Thank you. Trying to remember all of that, it was a while ago.
Second.
Okay, motion's made, and I'll have to write that one down first, but, seconded by Jeff to approve the preliminary plat with certain conditions. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, I think, I agree with how Nick was categorizing the inclusion of the trails. You know, that if we had to adjust them, by including them now, it's gonna make it harder to change in the future.
The only, we've had, if I just might, we've had conversation that I can't go into because it was in closed session, but let's just say easements are an issue and have been an issue when we've had conversations about selling properties. You weren't involved in some of those discussions, but I just wanna bring up that information.
Sure.
That's why I think it's important to have them on the map, because we have cut the grass and people are using these trails already, and if it's something that we are dedicated to as a town, I think it's important that it's represented, and
Yeah, I'm not, there's nothing about dedication or whether or not we keep them or because we'll always have them. It was just the flexibility part
oh, I understand.
that I agreed with. That,
Right.
you know, because we're always gonna have them there, But if we do want to sell a particular parcel that has, coming down the middle, that gives us the flexibility just to mow the grass 200 feet over to the side,
But we had that conversation with an interested party already. Well, Nick's not here, so,
There's a chance that those discussions don't go well.
no.
Well, this is a preliminary plat, so it still is gonna come back to us for a final plat, right?
That's true. That's true. And it's a minor detail I'm bringing up. It's not like deal breaker. I was just wanted to point out what Nick recommended to us, but we can move forward.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And it's something that it can always be discussed at the time the sale takes place too.
Mhm.
And the final plat, correct.
Well, not if you put them on the map, that means they gotta stay there. That's why you don't want them on the map, so you have flexibility, so that you can move them if necessary. It would still have hiking trails, it just wouldn't be in that exact location. Once it's on the map, that's cut in stone.
And the width and how many there are, to my understanding, like if we wanted to add paths, we wouldn't really be able to, correct?
We'd have to take care of it through sale, it would be, right, we'd have to, and I think the flip side would be a developer might say, like, right, I'll keep the trail, but because of my design, could I go a little this way, or could I go a little that way? That would be the other piece that,
That's why you don't wanna put them on the map and make them part of the plat.
I know on certified survey maps that they have conditions on those. If you look at like the subdivisions, over and above what is required by the municipalities or whatever, on certified survey maps, you can put in certain provisions. And at some point, I don't know if on a plat map, I'm not familiar with those, that a provision could be made that the owner of the property that is agreeing to the plat map and purchase of it, that they will continue the walking path somewhere on their property, or something to that effect, that these are not gonna stop at this one parcel of land. It would be continuous. And I don't know how you would do something like that. But I know they do it on certified survey maps. I don't know about plat maps.
well, and almost every property sale is gonna, within Rome Town Center, almost all, not all, are gonna need a certified survey map because it's huge tracts of land. There's only a very few parcels that have been divided for a variety of reasons, where that might be the parcel that's purchased. The vast majority would need a certified survey map, where if we were working with them through a purchase, we could say that that map would need to include this indicator for town maintains ownership of that property for trail system.
And they wouldn't have to have specificity of where these walking paths are, but they must be continuous throughout the Rome Town Center.
Well,
And they
if-
can't stop it from happening.
But if we put it on the plat map, then they have to be where we say they are. And there's no flexibility.
That's why you don't want them there.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna withdraw my motion and have someone else make that, please.
Okay. Is there somebody else that would like to make a motion to start further discussion?
Sure, I'll make a motion
Okay.
to, I don't even know what we're doing here. Make a motion to recommend to the town board the site plan, nope, wrong one. Goodness. Preliminary plat for Timberland Park, located at the property owned by the Town of Rome, to include the findings of fact, and I believe that is it.
With a condition that verification by the engineer that the drainage basin is no longer needed as previously indicated on the Rome Town Center design map.
Yes, include that, please.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor
One is findings of fact.
to approve recommend to the town board the preliminary plat for Timberline Park.
Still need a second.
Second, I need a second from somebody.
Second?
And that is to indicate that the storm basin is no longer needed from the engineering company,
As indicated on the previous design map.
okay? And to include the findings of fact. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, then hearing nothing, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Present.
Motion carries 4-1. 3-1, 4-1. 4-1
I don't count.
with, okay. Item number 14. Discussion of possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of a site plan of operation for Tiffany Savecki for the property located at 637 Hampton Trail, also described as Lot 21 of Hampton Court addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northeast one quarter, Section 34, Town 20 North, Range 5 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-3012.
Say something yet?
No, I'm afraid you can't, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion to table the application until Lake Arrowhead Association A&E Committee receives the proper documents and can verify compliance with the covenants of Lake Arrowhead Association.
Second.
Okay.
I would just note for the applicant that when it would come back, it wouldn't need another public hearing, because we had the public hearing tonight. It could be a regular agenda item, and we would not charge you again the fee that we did for this meeting.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to table this item until such time as Lake Arrowhead Association has time to review the site plan of operation to see if it conforms with their covenants. Close?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 15, discussion of possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose. The short-term rental at the property located at 489 St. Andrews Trail, owned by Jeffrey and Cynthia Zerwanka, also described as Lot 82 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northeast one quarter, southeast one quarter, Section 19, and the northwest one quarter, southwest one quarter, Section 20, all a part of Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2772. I'll make the motion to approve the conditional use permit for 489 St. Andrews Trail with the findings of fact to include 8-person occupancy maximum and 4 vehicles maximum number of vehicles.
Second.
Just a reminder, you don't need to include occupancy in vehicles because.
It's already on the findings of fact.
Yep,
Okay,
Property manager, hard surfaces,
and
Okay.
term indefinite,
got it.
as long as they hold a license.
as long as they have a license for that owner.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the conditional use permit, 489 St. Andrews Trail. Any other discussion?
Yes, I was wondering about perhaps having the management company or the property owner place a notice that going out on the golf courses for golf course properties is considered trespass. And, oh, yes,
I don't disagree with that. The problem is, that the way I see it, is that when you put these individual outside of the ordinary, that's a burden on staff. I mean, how do you
How,
follow up with that, right?
like how is that enforceable?
Yeah.
And shouldn't that really be an Arrowhead situation?
Well, I would note, I'm happy to discuss with Arrowhead membership. I can provide them contact information for the short-term rentals that fall on the courses for them to make that direct connection from Arrowhead about those. I can certainly send them the short-term rentals that fall within the courses.
Yeah, and I think that we discussed at some point, changing the requirements of the rules that they post. You know, I think that's how we address that, right? You know, and so we can go through at some point when we're not, 20 short-term rentals deep, and make that a requirement, because I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to your idea. It's just, when you set an individual condition, you know, that it just gets to be an enforcement and staff thing.
Not really though, because, I mean, I beg to differ with you a little bit, because that's how some of those premier hosts get to be premier hosts on like Airbnb and some, I mean, granted, this is local companies and things, but that's just one more thing, that if you're gonna be on a golf course or on a lakefront, you have certain responsibilities for enforcement, and you're helping the local community enforce those restrictions. And if you hear from people more and more, I mean, we just heard it at our membership thing this weekend, it's like, there's so many short-term rentals in my neighborhood, what can you do? Well, we can't do anything other than enforcement, and, well, I'm the only full-time resident on my road, and there's all these short-term rentals, and the kids are playing on the golf course in front of my house. Well, we can call police and we can tell them about, I mean, I'm not getting into a lot of discussion here, but it's just one more thing we can ask and cooperate with each other and say, could you possibly do this? Maybe we can work together for that enforcement.
Granted, but we should not put the stipulation on just one short-term rental, because it applies to more than
No,
one.
not one short-term
So don't put it
rental.
on this one, just, it has to be
Oh.
addressed in a different manner.
Oh, absolutely, correct.
Just to follow up on that though too, I mean, we work with, it's a handful of property companies, right?
Right.
There's a handful of ones that handle the majority. And if we work with Arrowhead and they put together something that has that, I can also send that to those handful of property managers to say,
Right.
this is a focus, please share this with the property owners that you have that are on the courses too.
Right, not just one individual property, correct.
I'd also like to just make a statement that, with the approval of the two on St. Andrews, there are now 4 short-term rentals on St. Andrews Trail, and there's a short-term rental at 494 Tomahawk that is just down 2 houses off of St. Andrews Trail. Just pointing that out with regard to,
Yeah, but there's nothing, again, nothing we can do.
I disagree, but,
What
Well-
will we,
well, that's for another
Mm-hmm.
day when we don't have 20 in front of us, but.
You know, at this point, the state hasn't set any density levels or
Already
anything
3
regarding
hours.
conditional uses. Okay, the motion's on the floor, and I'm sorry, you done?
Sure.
Okay. Motion's on the floor and seconded to approve the conditional use permit for 489 St. Andrews Trail, including the findings of fact. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 16, discussion on possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: a short-term rental of the property located at 368 Nottingham Court, owned by Ashley and Justin Haley, also described as Lot 15 of Nottingham addition to Lake Sherwood, located in the northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 16, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2274.
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for short-term rental at 368 Nottingham Court, to include the findings of fact. I think that's it.
Okay. I'll second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 17, discussion of possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: a short-term rental at the property located at 340 Deepwater Trail, owned by April and Kurt Nelson, also described as lots 122 to 123 of Quiet Waters addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northwest 1/4, northeast 1/4, section 18, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-3897.
I'll make the motion, that we approve, the address at 340 Deepwater Trail, and with the, following, or with the findings of fact and the conditions.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the conditional use permit for 340 Deepwater Trail. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 18, discussion of possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose, the short-term rental at the property located at 478 St. Andrews Trail, owned by Danita and Donald Carlson, also described as Lot 106 to 107 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 20, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-2796.
I'll make the motion to approve the conditional use permit for short-term rental at 478 St. Andrews Trail to include the findings of fact.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the conditional use permit for 478 St. Andrews Trail. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 19, discussion of possible action, amendment to conditional use permit for the short-term rental at the property located at 487 Duffers Trail, owned by Kevin and Lauren Dick, also described as Lot 35 of Arrowhead Green addition to Lake Arrowhead, southeast 1/4, southwest 1/4, section 20, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-2725, adjusting the maximum allowed occupancy.
And noting that it's 5 vehicles, just noting that correction that was a typo.
Noting that it's 5 vehicles on the findings of fact and adjusting the allowed occupancy to 15.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the conditional use permit for 487 Duffers Trail, and that clarifies 15 occupants and 5 vehicles to be, no more than 5 vehicles to be parked on hard surfaces.
Okay.
And the rest of the findings of fact.
I'll second it.
I have a question.
Certainly.
The amendment does include the original CUP. This is just an amendment to that one, so any conditions that we have on the original one
Are still
also
there.
Okay,
Still there.
all right.
Okay.
If there were any.
If there were any.
I have a copy in the folder, so let me just, oops, wrong folder. I think it would just be
Yeah.
clear to put them on here if there were any. So this original one, the additional ones that were put on here were a property manager within 25 miles, which we adopt.
Yep.
And that the proposed term was indefinite, which we now
We
adopt.
have.
So there is nothing that was previous that would not be included on this.
Okay, thank you.
Motion is made and seconded then to approve the amendment to conditional use permit for 487 Duffers Trail. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 20, discussion and possible referral to a future agenda. Consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360, the zoning chapter, Article 8, regarding R2, 1 and 2 family and manufactured dwelling residence district regarding manufactured mobile homes. I would say that we just table this and move it to the next agenda.
Oh, you speak in my language. I was about to say the same thing.
Is there a reason that we should not be doing that?
I was just gonna give a quick
I mean,
overview.
feel free.
Okay,
I'm here.
a manufactured home and a mobile home are two of the same structure. They are brought in on wheels and have a permanent steel frame supporting it. A manufactured dwelling, keyword there, is completely different. This dwelling comes on a semi-trailer and has a standard wood frame. And R2, that district allows for manufactured homes, so that less restricted structure. Included in the packet is R2 section of code and Chapter 142 building construction, 142.12 manufactured homes. Neither state statutes or town code state a minimum age for a manufactured home. The year that we were thinking of, or Nick was thinking of, 1978. That's when manufactured home and mobile home changed from no regulations to needing to meet HUD standards.
What was the, are we gonna table this?
You can refer to a future agenda for discussion. If you,
She
or
was just explaining the
That would be my suggestion, just because of the length of this meeting, just refer to a future agenda for discussion.
I totally agree.
We need an emotion on that.
You've got right there for me.
Did you say you need a motion?
wasn't
I don't
pointing
believe
at
we
you.
do, not to just table it, move it to a future
Because that
agenda.
was very good. That's exactly what I was looking for, Emily. Thank you.
Dates and times for future agenda and meetings. The next agenda items that are listed currently for next meeting is comprehensive plan objectives. And now we have number 20 to be moved into the next agenda item possibly.
And I believe we have, short-term rentals.
How many?
I don't know, we're just gonna knock on some wood. And, I should have, a comp plan rezone from forest recreation to rural residential, and it's, I believe, consistent with our comp plan. And I believe we'll have a site plan of operation, but I have not received anything yet, so we'll see.
Okay.
Do you see the short-term rentals building up again for the season?
I don't see them, I just
It's
see.
just basically all renewals?
Renewals, yeah, which wouldn't come here.
Oh, I see, okay,
But
you're right.
I would say that we've had another really large influx, like you saw 4 tonight, I bet we've gotten 12 in the past several weeks. A lot of people are ramping up because of the US Open.
Can we set the limit again back to like a maximum for each meeting? Cause last year we had ended up with like 7 on one meeting.
This goes back to that discussion. Let's see how our checklist works out, and then I think we need to have a conversation again. And I mean, I think the checklist has really helped us.
I think
But
so
if we're
too.
gonna start seeing 12 come in at a time.
So they're 12
Oh,
applications, they're
taking
not ready.
applications. They're not ready.
They're not ready to
Yeah,
come
they're
here.
not ready.
But
I'm
sorry.
still, because then that goes over to board, and then board can't get to work either. So, I mean, we've gotta be realistic.
Yeah, and is this a case of where we put the checklist in, and now everybody who had to go through the checklist the first time are finally catching up, and now they got the checklist done?
No, these were all individuals that were new, that, like, we said, you have to have these things done, and they got them done.
And one thing we didn't visit over the winter months that we said we would, and I really think there's, it's conversation to be had. There are communities that have visited and are working on density. So, and they've found ways to work with that regulation or some sort of regulation that, they're just seeing their neighborhood swamped with it, and maybe it is something that we could work on eventually. So I'd like to be able to bring that back, because we let it drop off. We didn't look at it over the winter months when things did slow down with short-term rentals, so. Thank you.
It's possible next month might only
It-
be one. It just,
Yeah.
In addition
Let's see
to the
how it works
density
with this
issue,
one.
hardship on the municipality, inability for staff to monitor and keep under control. In all my driving around in the last couple of days to check there are a lot of cars parked all over grasses, all over, and you don't know if they're short-term rentals, but we don't have the staff that can go out there and
Right.
find this.
Enforcement. It's
Is
a-
that a hardship on the municipality? Is that something also that, could be criteria for allowing so many short-term rentals that we just are not able to handle it?
And then that brings up the fact that we as a municipality can work with the Towns Association, that they can bring up and help us lobby with our legislatures and say, hey, this is getting to be an issue, because Door County's faced with it, up north is faced with it, we're not the only ones that are dealing with it. So granted, it's a great source of income, we don't wanna discourage small business, but it's also a strain on.
It's a hardship on on the citizens.
But,
and I've had the conversation with Towns Association about putting that on a platform. 'cause
Yes.
There's many, even these issues, there's the cost of ownership, right? A lot of these are homes that need repair and then are repaired, and that enters into people that would be buying first-time homes that are, otherwise being able to get them because they're being sold as short-term rentals. Like, there's a lot of other items that could factor into that
there's
conversation.
a lot of different tentacles that
Yes.
come off of that one issue, so it's infrastructure and everything else, so.
And it's talked about everywhere you go.
Yeah, not unique to us.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, our next meeting date and time is June 13th, 2023, and that'll be at 4:00 PM. It's not
Ending
on
at
the thing,
5?
but
Can we start, yeah, we
I don't
can
think
do
that'll
end
happen.
dates, end time.
And so I will declare the meeting adjourned at 6:59 PM.
Goodness.
Not quite 7.